Are continuing our meeting from last night. Welcome to our regular meeting for the city of Daly City. Um, Prior to us moving on to uh, item number 10, I want to make some short comments before proceeding. The city council wants to thank the members of the public who took the time to speak to us last night. We appreciate your input and we are listening to you. Um, and, let me be very clear, as mayor, I asked for the names of the officers involved from the onset. But yesterday we stated that we would release the names no later than Wednesday, but the city council is reconsidering that timing in light of the request from public comments, particularly from Mr. Roger Allen's family. As I said, we'll be keeping you informed as we work through this. We have prioritized body cameras and looking to expedite this as soon as possible. Thank you very much for the time, and we'll be moving on to our business, item number 10. Item number 10, REACH codes, adoption of local amendments to 2019 California Energy and 2019 Green Building Standards. Mr. Segala.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're going to start with a presentation. Farhad will lead us off.
Yes, good evening, Council. My name is Farhad Farahman. I'm a consultant with Peninsula Clean Energy. And is Rafael Reyes on the line here? If not, I can present his slides for him. Okay, no problem. I'll start by sharing my screen. Okay. Oh. Can folks see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so tonight's presentation is on building REACH codes. First off, I'm a consultant with TRC. I'm here on behalf of Peninsula Clean Energy. Peninsula Clean Energy is San Mateo County's not-profit, locally led electricity provider. They procure your energy while PG&E delivers the power over the utility lines. PCE's mission is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by expanding access to sustainable and affordable energy solutions. And their power is largely carbon-free currently and will be entirely carbon-free in the next couple of years. What are REACH codes? They are local enhancements to the state code and can be adopted at any time. The state staff proposal tonight addresses both building electrification, reducing the use of natural gas, and electric vehicle charging, which increases the amount of EV readiness. These codes are intended to improve the economic and energy performance of all buildings. We're starting with new construction with this proposal. As we'll demonstrate in our slides, we believe there is major economic value for residents as part of these REACH code proposals. They also lead to safer and healthier homes. We can achieve our climate goals together, enable much greater EV adoption, which again has economic as well as climate benefits. And during new construction is really when we need to stem the tide of our fossil fuel usage. So incorporating these measures during new construction is much more cost effective. There are tremendous health benefits associated with electrification, building electrification. Gas stoves in homes have been shown to increase children's risk of asthma by 42%. By eliminating gas entirely, we eliminate the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. And the use of induction ranges as one type of electric range is much safer, less prone to burns. This initiative, led by Peninsula Clean Energy, along with sister agency Silicon Valley Clean Energy, has led to the adoption of 22 local municipalities adopting such REACH codes, including building and electric vehicle electrification. And I'm with TRC. We also have several other consulting partners and are really happy to be here with you tonight. Thank you for listening to this item. So I'm going to dive into some of the code specifics. On building electrification, the key point is that it's less expensive to build all electric than it is with mixed fuel. This is because there's no gas plumbing, metering, or venting necessary. So for a typical single family home, in this example, this is a 2,500 square foot single family home, it saves about $10,000. And this finding is generally applicable across a broad range of building types. It has been shown in several studies. There are some segments that are more energy intensive where this may not necessarily apply. This chart has a lot of information on it, and we can come back to it if there's more questions on it. But what it serves to do is disaggregate some of the anticipated upfront construction costs and ongoing costs associated with electrification. I'd like to direct your attention to the blue box at the top right. As you'll note, it's about $10,000 less expensive to construct, and the monthly bill would go up potentially about $7 per month. However, if we were to increase the amount of solar that's required on new construction, remember, the state code already requires some amount of solar PV to be installed on new construction homes. So if we were to add a few more panels on top of that, we become cost effective immediately. The construction cost is equivalent, and our monthly bills have been shown to go down. The types of REACH code options available have generally fallen into three categories, the most aggressive being the natural gas ban. This is a municipal ordinance rather than a building code amendment, and does not need to be updated with every code cycle. The second row shows the all electric required, which is the proposal staff has brought forward today. This requires that appliances be electric via energy code amendments with a list of exceptions. The third row is all electric preferred. This allows mixed fuel buildings to get built via energy code amendments, as long as they are higher performing with additional efficiency measures and battery storage. Moving on to the EV code. Let's set some common terminology so that we can make sure that we're all on the same page with regard to the technical specifics of this code. There's 3 levels of charging. Level 1 is your common household outlet. For every hour that you're plugged into that outlet, you charge about 3 or 4 miles into your vehicle. Level 2 is also commonly found in homes. This is for larger appliances like your dryer. That's a 240 volt outlet. And for every hour you're plugged into that, it's about 10 to 20 miles per charging hour. Level 3 is really anything above level 2. This is also known as fast charging. There's 3 degrees of readiness that are possible with codes, and then that's required as per the state. The first is capable. This means that you have the capacity on your panel to add more space to accommodate future electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and you have conduit installed. EV ready is you actually install the wiring inside the conduit and provide a receptacle so that the vehicle owner can bring their own charging cable and plug it in. EV charger installed means that you actually have the cable available on site. And finally, there's the percentage of parking spaces that a policy can augment as being required to some level of EV readiness. It's much more cost effective to require EV charging at new construction, about 3 or 4 times more expensive if you were to do it during a retrofit. This is one study that was performed by a consultancy. And in reality, what we're seeing from retrofit costs are that they exceed the values that we're seeing on this table, up to $18,000 is what PG has been recently reporting. EV charging code. This is the kind of summary of all the requirements. On the single family side, 2 EV spaces are being proposed. One is a level 2 EV ready circuit. The other is the level 1 EV ready circuit. As I mentioned, these are outlets that are already common in the home. We're just making sure that they're going to be available in the garage. For multifamily buildings, the proposal strives for 100% access to electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Electric vehicle ownership is a very important lever to be able to reduce energy burden costs and fuel costs. So it is a key component of achieving equity. 100% access does mean a good amount of power to be installed, but our code is able to mitigate that by encouraging load management technologies, which basically, we can get into some more specifics if there are questions, but basically it doesn't mean that everybody can charge at the full speed at the same time. When everybody needs to charge at the same time, there's some mitigation of how much charge you can actually get. And then on the commercial side, there's some level of EV readiness required for office spaces, up to 50% of the spaces. In other commercial buildings, 11% of the spaces would need some sort of EV readiness level. And again, load management is encouraged there. So we have worked with 22 cities so far, and we have a list of frequently asked questions that I'd like to go over. Are all electric homes common? Nationwide, they are the majority of the building type that is constructed. California is where we're actually falling behind. 40% of the homes use heat pump technology, and that's really the technology that's key to making sure we have a cost-effective outcome when we electrify. Heat pumps can be 350% efficient in providing heat to the home. And they're available for both space heating and water heating technologies. Another common question is, will electrification reduce resilience? Of the 4 appliances I've shown on the list here, the only one that can actually work without electricity is the cooktop if it was gas. Only gas appliance that could work without electricity is the cooktop. And that's because you can light it with a match on your own. Of course, you can't operate your fan. So a lot of pollutants are entering your kitchen. But that is the one appliance. Everything else requires some sort of electrical brains, a fan, a tumbler, pumps, and of course, ignition. Pilot lights are not allowed in new construction. The last most frequently asked question is, can the grid handle this load increase? There are macroeconomic studies that have been performed for how to decarbonize, right? So this has been shown to be the lower cost, lower risk approach to decarbonization, is by beefing up electrification. Peninsula Clean Energy has included an assessment here that building electrification amounts to a 1% increase or less than 1% increase in grid load. And this is largely because our grid load peaks during the summer. That's when the brownouts happened last year. It was because of air conditioning. That's where our grid is sized to. So when we electrify our heating for our water heating and our space heating, we're actually increasing the utilization of the grid, which should drive down costs for electricity. They have a cost reducing impact because we're spending more kWh on the same same wires that are installed. PG&E is, of course, the electric utility. They have a service obligation to meet your needs, a statutory obligation, and their leadership is fully supportive of these REACH codes and are committed to delivering the infrastructure that's necessary. There are several resources that your city can rely on if you were to adopt. Of course, there's $10,000 that PCE provided to compensate for city staff time thus far. There is ordinance language that we have provided and has been highly customized for Daly City. Thank you, Mario. There's consultant time available for technical questions. We've, of course, provided some resources here. And we have, I think the most important thing, if we were to adopt, is a building department training that's being provided by BayREN, the Bay Area Regional Energy Network. It's free of charge and can be for your entire city staff if you so wish. On the industry side, we also have technical support. And again, this is a program that's being led by Peninsula Clean Energy. At allelectricdesign.org, building industry members, whether they're architects, builders, developers, design engineers, have free access to worldwide experts for electrification. Some of those are listed on this slide. We also hold roundtables, contractor trainings, and publish materials so that we can create replicable and consistent implementation frameworks and successfully implement these projects and not slow down the pipeline. This is in-depth one-on-one assistance per project that we're providing. And I thought we'd close with a list of the cities that have adopted so far and those that are still considering. Currently, South San Francisco and Portola Valley are alongside Daly City in assessing whether this is appropriate for their cities or not. Santa Clara County has 12 adopted cities, 3 in progress. And with that, I'll pass it off to Mario to start his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Farhad, for that presentation. Thank you, Mayor Manolo and fellow council members for your time and consideration. Today, I will give a short presentation on the impact of REACH codes to new construction in Daly City. These code changes will set new minimum requirements to the California Energy Code and Green Building Standards Code. I will go through the different types of construction and their impacts. So REACH codes are amendments that are composed of essentially 3 components: 1, building electrification; 2, electric vehicle infrastructure; and 3, photovoltaic. For single-family 1 and 2 family dwellings, new residential construction will be required to provide all electric design. This includes cooking, space heating, water heating, and clothes drying. Exemptions will be 1, accessory dwelling units, including junior ADUs; affordable housing; 3, projects with planning entitlements prior to adoption. On the electric vehicle infrastructure component, 1 level 2 and 1 level 1 ready space will be required. Exemptions include single space parking, which only will require a level 2 EV ready space. Additional exemption, ADU and JADU without panel upgrade or new panel installation.
Were you intending to share the screen?
Yeah. Is it not sharing? Okay, hold on.
No, we're not seeing your screen.
Sorry about that. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize for that. Okay, the next type of construction will be multifamily dwellings. On the building electrification side, new construction will be required all electric design, again, which includes cooking, space heating, water heating, and clothes drying. Exemptions are projects with approved planning entitlements and affordable housing. On the EV infrastructure side, less than 20 units, 1 parking space per dwelling unit shall be provided with level 2 EV ready space. 20 or more units, 25% of units shall be provided with a level EV2 ready space. 75 shall be provided with a level 1 EV ready space. The exemptions for this are EV infrastructure cost exceeding $4,500 utility cost per space; 2, commercial power supply unavailable; and 3, affordable housing projects. On the photovoltaic side, for multifamily dwellings, 15% of the roof area will be required to be covered with solar for buildings with 4 or more habitable stories. The exemptions include 1, PV insulation that will overgenerate the required energy for the building; 2, limitations due to shading and surrounding terrain; and 3, roof vegetation. On the non-residential side, for the building electrification component, new construction requires all electric design. Exemptions include, again, projects with prior approved planning entitlements prior to the adoption. 2, applicant establishes that there is not an all-electric prescriptive compliance pathway for the building under the Energy Code, and the building is not able to achieve the performance compliance standard applicable to the building under the Energy Code using commercially available technology and approved calculation method. 3, commercial kitchens may contain non-electric cooking appliances. 4, Office of Statewide Health and Planning Development projects may contain non-electric space conditioning, water heating, and processing systems. Number 5, buildings containing F, H, and L occupancies as defined by the building code, the California Building Code. And 6, buildings containing scientific labs for space conditioning and water heating systems. On the electric vehicle infrastructure side, for the non-residential office buildings with 10 or more parking, 10% of the parking would be required to provide level 2 EV ready spaces. Additionally, 10% level 1 EV ready spaces. Additionally, 30% EV capable spaces for office buildings. All others, 6% level 2 EV ready, plus an additional 5% level 1 EV ready. The exemptions include DC fast charging may be used to substitute for a required number of electric charging vehicle stations. On the photovoltaic side, again, 15% of the roof area will be required to provide solar. Exemptions include applicant demonstrates over generation for PV, 2, limitations due to shading and surrounding terrain, and 3, roof vegetation. So the next steps for REACH code adoption, 1 is the first reading. 2nd would be to move on to the 2nd reading. If that's approved by council, we would then file energy code amendments and cost effectiveness study to the California Energy Commission. This can take approximately up to 60 days. Once we get that approval, then we would file amendments with the California Building Standards Commission. And then finally, the REACH code amendments will go into effect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Segala, for the presentation. At this point, are there any questions from my colleagues in regards to the REACH codes? Councilmember Sylvester, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Gentlemen, thank you for your presentation. I have a few questions. I do understand that the REACH codes pertain to new construction. Will it in any way affect pre-existing conditions? Say, for instance, a homeowner, they want to remodel. Are you going to, passing of this code, will this make them, the homeowner, have to comply with the REACH code conditions? For instance, say they want to remodel their kitchen, they're using gas at the present time. And if we adopt the REACH codes, are you going to, will it require the homeowner to convert from gas to electricity?
At this time, you will not be required on the building electrification side. You will not be required to provide full or remove your gas, your natural gas, or utilize only electric for, say, cooking, heating. On the EV charging side, if you do have a panel upgrade with an ADU, say you did it with an ADU, then you would be required to provide a level 2 EV charger in the garage. And if there are 2 available spaces, then you would be required to provide a level 1 and a level 2. So at this time, we are not including existing building modifications to the electrification portion.
Okay, well, you made mention that in the case of an ADU, which some ADUs may be in the backyard, and if you want to run electricity to that ADU for power, you will require EV charging capability at the same time, just because you want to run power to an ADU?
That is correct.
All right. Go ahead.
A little clarification, please. Thank
Go
you.
ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. So this is as written. It's if the panel is upgraded, there must be reserved breakers at the ADU. So it's at the panel. So you're not actually routing. You're not providing the circuits yet.
That helps tremendously, because if you're going to provide EV charging capabilities, especially at a level 2, that might require the running of additional conduit over the 110 normal voltage. So that helped tremendously. Okay, thank you for that. So it won't apply to pre-existing conditions. I'm thinking about kitchen, water heater, and dryer. Those pre-existing conditions where owner is using gas, they won't have to upgrade. We're talking about new construction only. Thank you, Tatum. Got it. All right. I'm concerned about the photovoltaic in the sense of requiring 15% of the roof with certain conditions, say rooftop garden, or there's another building overshadowing the new construction, which will produce shadows. And I think the whole idea is that we're trying to save developers money in the sense of building, but I'm concerned because you said in your presentation 4 or more stories. That could be, well, first of all, that can entail many apartment units, and I can't see how 15% is going to help. Is there some way we can say units, whether they're studio or 1 bedrooms, a certain percentage of units then will require solar? That's number 1. Any thoughts on that?
That's a great question, Councilmember Sylvester. The nature of this language is drawn on some existing code language that references the roof area. It's the solar ready requirements, the section, doesn't matter, it's section. So we've kind of gone off the roof area because that is a generally, like what is the feasible amount that you could fit on the roof? So that's what we've tried to start with. If you go to a certain watts per unit, you might start realizing that you don't have the roof space if it's a very tall and narrow building. That's at least that's my intent. Hopefully that answers your first question.
Well, okay. So I'm no architect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just comparing a 4-story building that may only have 4 units, and yet another 4-story building, which is wider, may have 25 units. And I'm just wondering, the mere fact, the number 4 is what's coming to my mind. And I wish I can get some more clarification on that.
Okay, I'll do my best. I'll try. And Mario, please feel free to chime in. So the 4-story delineation is because currently the state code requires solar on residential buildings that are 3 stories already. So there is some amount of solar required to offset the current electricity consumption. So what the REACH code would be requiring is for larger buildings to also offset. And again, we're going back to the percentage of roof because we're constrained by how much we can actually fit on the roof. But also if you have a 4-story building with 4 units versus a 4-story building with 20 units, that roof area would scale somewhat to the energy consumption that's going to be used inside that building. It's not a perfect scaler, but we're trying to be cognizant of the fact that there's going to be mechanical equipment, other items on that roof that are going to prevent full coverage.
That is excellent. And Mr. Farhad, you said the magic word to me, and that is offset. So I get it. So, okay, good. That's great. Would you kindly put up the exemption screen for me, please?
Sure, certainly. Just give me a second.
Okay. I'm in a separate screen. Okay.
Okay, but
Whoop. So there's
I'll keep going. It was near
so
the end.
there's the exemptions for the single family, and would you like to see the ones?
It was near the end. You had
Okay.
like about 6
Yeah,
exemptions.
that was for the non-residential component. There you go.
Okay, that one. I received a note regarding removing of certain exemptions, but I just need some clarification. Let's start off with commercial kitchens, exemption number 3. So if I was a business owner, and we do have a combination of retail and residences, what if I wanted to open up a wood burning pizza business? Would that be possible under exemption number 3?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That answers that one. Exemption, pardon me, I'm just going between screens here. I'm concerned, I think it was exemption number 5. I'm concerned about low income, and where you have the majority of, well, I guess it wouldn't really apply here because all of the units would be electric. But I'm just wondering, will we ensure, and I'm sure PCE will work with the developers to ensure there's ample supply of electric appliances, that every unit would be electric and none will be gas, because it's a possibility that, especially for low income, their utility bills can go up. Can you clarify that for me?
This is for the affordable housing exemption.
Yes.
Okay, so the affordable housing exemption, the reason I included it, there's really 2 components to the affordable housing. There's 1, the construction cost, and 2, the operating cost. On the construction cost side, affordable housing projects are subject to a maximum allowable cost per unit, depending on the applicable tax rate, to the applicable tax credit or fund. And as we know, Bay Area experiences high construction costs, so that potential increase can exceed those thresholds, effectively making the project infeasible. Another example is for full electrification, you may be required to provide a larger transformer. That larger transformer can take the space of a dwelling unit, again, making the project infeasible. On the operating side, I don't have any studies, or there haven't been any studies that I know of that have studied the cost between the electric and the combination of electric and natural gas, and how those costs get passed on to the low income occupants of the low income housing.
Okay. Now you're starting to get over my head, but at least I had to ask the question and I can digest that information. One last question, and then I'm done. Well, before I ask the last question, I want to say I'm really impressed. I'm looking forward to the EV electrification infrastructure for the future and the moving away from fossil fuels. Scientific laboratory areas, and anything on that where they use heat pump equipment? Is my understanding that they won't suffer any degradation converting over to electricity?
Well, we've carved out an exemption for laboratories, and to address that, the space heating, and I believe that will address that concern. The other concern is the temperature changes For laboratories, they're required to maintain certain temperature, and the gas appliance is much more reliable, I would say, to address those concerns of temperature. I don't know if that answers your question.
I think I think it does. So basically, certain laboratories that utilize gas, they would be exempt under these REACH codes.
Yeah, they would be allowed. They would be allowed for space conditioning and
Space conditioning and hot water.
right.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sylvester, and thank you for answering those questions, Mr. Sagala and Mr. Farmad. Are there any other questions from my colleagues?
Madam Mayor,
Councilmember DiGiovanni.
thank you. First of all, I want to just say, and just like Councilmember Sylvester, thank you for the great presentation. I do have a couple questions. I think the Councilman Sylvester already answered them, the biotech and the remodeling, excellent. So that marked off my list. My concern is, while, you know, I've always been a proponent of this, supporting our environment, especially now more than ever. I just want to know when it says, I know PG&E is trying to give us a guarantee about that we have the structure, infrastructure on the power grid. And they really haven't really proven that yet, because we still have the rolling brownouts. We're going to have more wildfires coming up, and things are pretty, I would say, very viable at this time. So my thing is that what kind of guarantee do we have as far as the infrastructure? Have you been given any plan? I mean, like a real viable plan, guaranteed. Have you seen anything in the works that really will improve our infrastructure? Or is it just words of the vice president of PG&E saying that they will be able to meet the needs? Because currently they cannot meet the needs if we all are going to go this way currently. Now I could see if we were going to phase in this plan and see how our partners work, you know, like how things go as the infrastructure gets better. But since PG&E's reliability in that area, and I know it costs billions of dollars to change it with the current status. Have you heard anything, Mario or Mr. Farad, in that area? I mean, is there any movement?
Yes, there certainly is, and I'd like to invite Rafael Reyes with Peninsula Clean Energy to answer that question more fully.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rafael.
Thank you, Rafael Reyes, Director of Energy Programs with Peninsula Clean Energy, and thank you, Councilmember DiGiovanni, for that question. It is candidly a concern that everybody has, and what we can say, I think, with certainty is, number one, there is no question that the distribution grid, so the physical distribution grid for which PG&E is responsible, needs work. But it's important to put this into context, and there's several pieces to that context. So, number one, PG&E has a legal responsibility to provide service, and we know that they are making investments on grid hardening and other needed investments. Is it adequate to what our needs are today? Obviously, the public safety power shutoffs indicate that they're not there yet where they need to be. But many of those investments are ongoing. Now, it's also true that the gas distribution system has similar problems. So the San Bruno fire wasn't that long ago. There are serious and extensive upgrades also needed on the natural gas side. So it's not the case that not doing, one or relying on one fuel is somehow changing that. And from our perspective, it's important to think about resilience in all its dimensions. Certainly, fire is one aspect. In many cases, the natural gas distribution grid also will go down in the case of large-scale fires. And earthquake is another major risk. And the gas distribution grid is actually much more vulnerable in the case of earthquakes. And as noted earlier from our consultant from TRC, Farhad, the actual appliances most appliances will not run in new construction today without electricity. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that going electric doesn't solve the resilience problem, but being on gas doesn't solve it either. And so part of what we see is that in the future, the electric grid, especially when you look at the proliferation of storage devices and the like, is inherently in the long term more resilient, even though today it is not there. So we would encourage looking at the whole picture for resilience in terms of how to think about electrification.
Thank you. And so based on that part, what about the storage capability as far as, well, and the electrical part, as far as like the battery storages and things of that nature? Are we catching up, or how are we there on anything?
Well, today,
getting better?
Yeah, today solar and storage systems are extremely cost effective and effective for resilience in many scenarios, not all scenarios. There are still scenarios where, candidly, a natural gas generator or something like that can be an important part of a resilience strategy at lower cost than a solar storage system. But we also know that battery costs are declining very, very quickly. Solar costs are already extremely economic, and batteries are headed in the same direction. So we foresee a future where solar plus storage systems will be highly economic for most segments. We're not quite there yet, but that's where the market is heading in our view.
Okay. Okay. So
I'm sorry, Councilmember Giuba.
oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm going to add a few more data points to this. So this year, California will be installing as much solar as China. There's a lot of investment happening there. Secondly, our governor is facing a recall, so he is very concerned about providing enough power this summer, and is aligning procurement practices in a way so that we don't experience brownouts again. And then thirdly, I'm aware that at least PG&E has been investing in substations and providing and designing and engineering natural gas backup systems at the substation level. Ultimately, we want those to be a cleaner fuel, but those are another way where PSPS is going to be mitigated. Okay,
so that gives it like an option for the renewable energy component of it. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, so that's a piece of it. Because based on that, that's what I wanted to make sure, like, how do we make sure that everything, like, if we're on a Western grid and we cannot be sure that everything goes out when it goes out, is it 100% renewable? Like, that's a hard thing to capture or say or follow. Because I remember when you guys were having your CAC meetings, and you guys really gave a lot of technical information, that it really explained a lot when you went into the Western grid and explained the renewable energy part. So I found that pretty fascinating, but like you said, it's catching up. There's a lot of political pressure for the storage capability and on all aspects. And I guess that will make it move in a more timely manner to try to keep up with what we hope is what we want to do in the Bay Area. Is that, am I kind of on the right page or getting there?
Absolutely.
And then thank you for asking. So my other quick question is probably, I wanted to know, like, so here we are, and it asks us for the adoption process, but this is currently like obviously our first reading, right?
Correct.
And then, then there's a 60-day process where the public hones in. So in some cities, I noticed, this is more directed to our staff per se, that they did a community outreach first before they got to this part first. Was there any community outreach, Ms. Mothershead, in this aspect before we got here tonight? Anything that was done like South City did or other cities?
No, we didn't do any community outreach. We did meet with the council subcommittee a couple times. We felt that there was an interest in moving this quickly. We are relying quite a bit on the fact that, you know, we aren't the first ones out of the gate. So we are relying a lot on experiences of other jurisdictions and learned quite a bit from them. Also, I think we need to think of this as a living document. Although we're adopting an ordinance, as you are aware, code changes are cyclical and we see code change amendments. We expect that the REACH codes are also going to have to grow and continue to reach based on the new state code adoptions. So given where we are in the code cycle and our interest in moving forward, we felt, and with the experiences of other jurisdictions, we felt that we were able to capture what the primary concerns are with REACH codes.
So if we adopt this tonight, then that doesn't mean that, so I thought it was just first reading, then the next one would be the adoption. Correct me. But we were already adopted tonight. So there's really no chance for the community outreach. It's a little too late.
Well, this was a publicly noticed meeting. So there are opportunities, and I believe we have speakers this evening that can provide input. So there is an opportunity tonight for that public input.
Yeah.
Once the code is adopted, that will be what the code is. But I just want to put out there that this isn't going to be the code for, you know, some of the other ordinances we adopt in the city sort of sit and become kind of a more permanent fixture. This is going to be a code that probably will be coming back for amendments in a couple of years. And in that time, we will have a few projects that'll move forward that will test the ordinance and will become more experienced with it. And we will learn from those experiences that will allow us to take something forward.
Yeah. So I'd just like to, my colleagues to take that into consideration that we have not done any, I mean, not that it's however the process goes, but unlike other cities, we didn't do much community outreach. And I heard from constituents that would have liked to weigh in, but now that since we had our change, obviously in our council meeting from yesterday to today, prohibited them from being able to even weigh in for today. So please take that in consideration, because I would like to maybe slow it down a bit and then give the community more outreach, because we are trying to keep our standard in that way. I know that my colleagues are really concerned about community input and on all the subjects that we bring to the table. So to please keep that in mind. So thank you, Ms. Motherstead. I appreciate that. So we adopted tonight, but doesn't mean that it's solid. People can weigh in and then change it or say no.
No. Just to be clear, no, we are proposing the adoption of the ordinance tonight. And that would become the ordinances in effect. What I'm pointing out is that unlike other ordinances, this would likely be something that we will be revisiting on a cycle that's consistent with the building code. So this will be the code that is adopted until we consider REACH codes in the future. What I can say is that, again, this ordinance applies to new construction. New construction is actually fairly, not rare, but it's not as common as in other jurisdictions. We're mostly built out. We mostly see redevelopment and remodeling of existing structures. So this ordinance for its life is going to capture probably a very small amount of projects.
Because you're saying we're pretty well built out.
Right. So I think, when Councilmember Sylvester was asking if this is going to apply to single family home remodels, this isn't going to apply to, the standard homeowner that's out there, because most of the time they're remodeling an existing structure.
And again,
right.
And then again with the affordable, and then we'll make sure that they have, if we do affordable, I'm sure there'll be things that are up to par now to do energy saver appliances and maybe discounts for those in the low income housing, or they can apply for probably the PG&E discounts and things like that for cost, right? For energy savings.
I believe there are incentives, and I'm not the expert
for PCE.
So, right. So I will defer that to
PCE, right?
But yes, I think there are incentives available if 100% affordable housing developers choose.
Yeah, PCE can consider that when they do affordable projects, maybe they can give those particular projects a little bit of a break on the residents that are living in the affordable housing. That might help. That
Absolutely.
might help as well.
Yes. So the two things to point out is that one, we do know that it's less expensive to build all electric today. It's not a big jump, but there is cost benefit. In fact, we've been working closely with one large affordable housing provider who's not yet ready to be public, but who has told us, based on our work with them, that they expect to announce soon that they will be establishing all electric guidelines for all their new construction. And we're working with a second large affordable housing provider on the same thing. And what we do know is that in addition to that, the electric vehicle infrastructure is a cost adder. And to address that, we established an incentive program for affordable housing for EV infrastructure in new construction to cover most or all of those costs. So we are trying to address that specific need. And the final point with regards to stakeholder engagement, this has now been adopted in 24 cities across San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. And has been through very, very extensive stakeholder engagement and numerous refinements. And so Daly City is benefiting from an extensive stakeholder engagement process that spans 2 years and probably 400 attendees of various public meetings, if not more, specifically on this. So you can rest assured there has been a lot of public vetting.
Okay. Yeah, but not so much in Daly City though, but that's okay. I understand where you're coming from with that. And my other thing is, sorry to take up all your time, but I think I wrote down here when you were speaking about, okay, we got the community outreach and the grid, and have you reached out and then to our unions and to see where they're at, like for their cost? I mean, was there an estimated cost? Like you said, did you guys sit down and pencil it out on what it would development, and how our unions, any labor, how they feel about all this?
Well, I will invite Farhad to speak to the cost effectiveness studies and how those are developed. We certainly have had a dialogue with IBEW, but not all of the unions. We haven't, we PCE have not dug into specific building scenarios with specific trades. But we certainly have worked to keep our trade allies informed, and on numerous programs have union requirements for electrification, but mostly on the existing building side.
Okay, got it. So thank you for now until after the public comment. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and all of you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember DiGiovanni. I see Councilmember Sylvester's hand raised. Please go ahead, Councilmember Sylvester, please do. Is it a hand raised?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess this is to help Councilmember DiGiovanni if she doesn't already know. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Reyes for being on board, representing PCE. We do have a member of this council who is part of that organization as well.
Yes.
I think the concept of PCE has been tremendous. To Councilmember DiGiovanni, I learned a new word, and that's grid hardening. I learned that from Mr. Reyes tonight. And if you didn't know, when I was on PCE 4 years ago, they were already looking towards the future in building out what's known as solar farms.
Got it.
So that basically, all throughout California, these wide open lands, they put solar out there for the mere purpose of being able to harness the sun's energy. And now we depend on PG&E to distribute that energy. And if the grid should go down, hopefully it will just turn on. And with battery backup storage, I think we are moving at a quick pace, which is great. If you didn't know, the year 2035, it's it's going to be a special year, and hope I'm around then. That there'll be no more sale of ICE vehicles. You either have to purchase electric, or
Right.
you can keep your current ICE vehicle now. But we're looking forward to that. Let's see, solar farm, grid hardening, and again, thank you, Mr. Reyes, because you also said something. Battery costs are coming down, so hopefully to take some of to relieve these brownouts, if you have a battery backup system, I can see that forthcoming also, and that might be a requirement at a minimum for some of this new construction. It's just a thought, but it's all looking good, and I like the optimism in regards to our sustainable future. And oh, one last question, point. Customers of PCE have, this is in regards to discounts. Customers of PCE can opt in at various levels in obtaining renewable energy. Right now, you can go 100% renewable energy, but it's just going to cost you a little bit more. But you're saying you believe in renewable energy and no fossil fuel at all. Whereas the majority of people, if I'm not mistaken, is not at that point right now, but at least they're still part of PCE, and a certain percentage is renewable energy rather than the 100%. So I'm very optimistic. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member Sylvester. Are there any other comments from my colleagues before we go into pub? And I see Vice Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor Manalo. I'll keep this short. Thank you for those in PCE. I'm a proud member of one of the trustees, and the direction that we're headed. And I have more information on that when we get to City Council reports. But I think what we're going towards is something that's fiscally smarter, and also meets the needs of new technology, and it's creating an ecosystem that is creating cleaner energy. So I'm glad that we're able to address the changing technology alongside the larger goal of addressing climate change. When I look at my kids and looking and seeing a lot of the youth out there protesting and making their voices heard about climate change, and this is like a step towards finding an electric ecosystem, a fuel ecosystem that or a green ecosystem that hopefully can save our planet, because without the land and without the environment, we're probably going to be gone as well. So thank you to Farhad, Raphael, and Mr. Mr. Segula, I can't pronounce your name, man. Segula? Segala.
Yes.
My bad.
That's okay.
Thank you, Mario. And that's comments from me.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Seeing no other comments, I will say, this is really important to see this come to the City Council. I think, for me, I am a proponent for pushing for clean energy, but it's, we need to ensure that we move into these types of systems that push for a very holistic approach, right, towards sustainability and ensuring that we are pushing against the climate change that we see. My main concerns are really around affordable housing and really for affording housing developers, and it was responded to today with the exemptions. I think that's really one of our priorities as a city, is making sure that we create more affordable housing opportunities. And if, it's a fine balance, right? Like if it's going to hinder the creation of it, or what was mentioned, like it's going to take up space, and that's where actually folks can habitate, is something that we need to look at. But given that it's exempt, I don't have no concerns in that regard. Also, I think the other question I had, and it was talked about earlier in regards to speaking with, the electricians and kind of that sphere and world, and if there was any conversations around that, ensuring that they are in the fold and in regards to moving forward with this technology, and has there been a way to ensure that as you move into this technology, that workers are able to have the resources to learn and have the tools to also move with the new technology and have accessibility to jobs and training.
Absolutely, I can respond to that. Part of our technical assistance program includes contractor training on these technologies to make sure that they are familiar with the technologies. And we PCE are not the only ones doing training for contractors. So BayREN, which is the regional energy efficiency program, is also doing contractor training. So there are a number of opportunities. I'm particularly excited that we are also collaborating with San Mateo College on incorporating electrification topics into their curricula. There's still work to be done there, but that will go a long ways toward making sure that our workforce is ready.
Thank you very much for that information and clarification. And so seeing no other hands up from my colleagues, we will now move into, can I have a motion to open our public hearing, please?
Motion for open public hearing.
Have a
Second.
first and second. Okay. Ms. Ramos, please assist with the public comment for this item.
Thank you, Mayor. For anyone that would like to make a comment on this item regarding reach codes, please use the raise hand feature. You will have 2 minutes to speak. I will let you know when your time has expired, and I will call the first name. Diane Bailey.
Good evening, Mayor Manalo and council members, and thanks so much for this opportunity to speak. My name is Diane Bailey, and I am with a small community climate nonprofit called Menlo Spark. Just pulling up my notes here, bear with me. Okay, I'm here in strong support of proposed reach codes for all electric new construction, solar energy, and electric vehicle charging in new developments. And I want to note our letter of support from the Campaign for Fossil-Free Buildings in Silicon Valley. That's a coalition of 35 member groups working together to accelerate a phase out of fossil fuels from our homes and buildings. There were 20 signatories on the letter that we submitted yesterday, including architects, building designers, physicians, and other professionals in support of the REACH codes. And we want to strongly encourage you to move forward with it and adopt the REACH code today. But we're also asking for a few minor improvements, and I'll talk about that in a moment. This policy is a critical action to respond to the climate emergency that we're living in right now. Everyone is anxious as we approach another fire season. We're experiencing a 5-fold increase of wildfires due to climate change, and that harms our air quality as well, sending hundreds and thousands of children into ERs with asthma, more and more every year with the worsening wildfires. We're also experiencing intense heat waves and extreme weather disruptions. So we really can't put off action any longer to cut carbon and get off fossil fuels. In addition to addressing climate, this measure to go electric instead of using gas also provides major health and safety benefits. And I know other folks will talk about that tonight. I'd like to focus on the benefits of going electric for affordable housing. The proposed blanket exemption for affordable housing is very well intentioned, but it does create a massive equity disparity between low-income families and those with greater means. And that's because allowing affordable housing projects to continue using dirty and dangerous fossil gas shifts all the safety risk and pollution to low-income families. I see that I'm out of time, and so I'll ask you to please reconsider narrowing that exemption along the lines of what the city of East Palo Alto did, and I thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Tom Cabot.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Manalo and council members. My name is Tom Cabot. I'm a Menlo Park Environmental Quality Commissioner, just speaking for myself today. I'm also a 30-year veteran of a gas and electric utility planning operation over at City of Palo Alto. I've been involved in REACH codes for a number of years and helped Menlo Park with their first version of this type of REACH code about 2 years ago. We were having the same type of discussion you're having tonight. And we were looking at the same issues. We were the first mover on the peninsula to be doing this type of REACH code that would eliminate the use of gas. And we thought we'd have to build in some exemptions. And so we did, but it was because we were concerned about just trying to get the thing across the finish line as the first mover. Since then, many cities have followed and used us as a stepping stone and made even better versions of the REACH code, closing up some of those exemptions. And that's been great for their citizens because it costs 2 to 4 times as much to go back and retrofit any of these buildings than it does to do it right during new construction or even remodeling. It is the cheapest time to do that electrification. So making the requirement so that people do it while it's the cheapest time will save them money in the long run. Because as you are seeing from what's going on around us, the state will have to address the climate problem. They're trying to get to carbon neutrality for the whole state by 2045. And if gas is not going to be flowing in the near future, we don't want to be building for gas. PG&E took me aside after the REACH code passed in Menlo Park, and they said the exemptions cause problems for PG. It costs them money to keep a little system running with a little bit of gas flow on it. So they would rather we switch over to full electrification. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Saida Zarifa Kabir.
Good evening, Mayor Manalo and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. My name is Zarifa. I'm a student at College of San Mateo, and I'm working with the Campaign for Fossil-Free Buildings in Silicon Valley. I'm here in strong support of the proposed REACH code for all electric new construction, solar energy, and electric vehicle charging in new developments. And I hope you move forward to adopt this important measure today. Being a part of the fossil-free campaign has shown me that my generation may have hope against climate change as we continue to succeed in adopting REACH codes across the Bay Area. REACH codes can help Daly City lower costs, improve internal air quality, which can be helpful to people with certain respiratory conditions, lower the risk of fire, and reduce climate change pollution. Through electrification, we can transition from burning natural gas and other fossil fuels to power provided by clean, carbon-free sources of electricity. As a result, residents, businesses, and the entire community can benefit. All electric buildings are highly visible and practical step forward to address the climate crisis by breaking the cycle of fossil fuel dependency in buildings. This is the single best step that cities can take to address climate change this year. All electric code today prevents a complex, costly, and likely inevitable switch to electricity in the future, since gas prices are expected to rise sharply, and California is planning to eventually end gas distribution. For example, PG&E electric rates are expected to raise 24%, while SoCal Gas anticipates a 42% gas rate increase over the next couple of years, and this is just the beginning. Building all electric now will help future-proof Daly City. I hope you will move forward to adopt this essential REACH code today. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Robert Whitehair.
Oh, I had to find my notes. I'm sorry. Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. And thank you for extending the council meeting until today when there was more time and energy to consider REACH codes. I was one of those folks who stayed until the very end last night at midnight. I think you did the right thing by moving it to today. I honor the council and Daly City residents for their passion with that difficult issue. What I'm speaking today on a very small sliver of social equity, but it is indeed about equity. I am vice chair of Sustainable San Mateo County, reminded more than ever about the interconnectedness of all of us and all that we do. With REACH codes, considering what could be one of the most important actions you will take this year to stop the climate crisis, I urge you to adopt strong REACH codes without the exemptions. Others will have spoken about the dangers of natural gas. Personally, when I grew up, we grew up with all gas. We grew up with an unvented stove, an unvented furnace, and even an unvented heater in the bathroom. Because of that, me and my 5 siblings, we all have bronchitis issues, and I would like to prevent that from happening to the rest of Californians. Regarding equity, the big cost in multifamily affordable housing is in the cost of EV infrastructure. I urge the council to do everything they can to not have the exemption for affordable housing, but instead seek as many fundings and grants as they can from PCE so that low-income housing can have the benefit of also having access to EV chargers. And also finally with exemptions, when I was a public works director at San Bruno, I hated the exemptions because builders could work around them. When I was a facility director in corporate America, I loved exemptions because I could walk right through them. So I urge you not to have as many exemptions. I urge you to eliminate the exemption for affordable housing, and please do everything you can to find grants from PCE. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Y.Ann.
Hi, my name is Y.Ann Trone. I'm with Mothers Out Front with 6,000 members statewide. I urge the council to vote for the strongest possible REACH code. There is a 30-year lag between the time that greenhouse gases are emitted and when the effects are felt. The catastrophic wildfires and drought we are experiencing today are largely due to the emissions from 30 years ago. These destructive climate effects will increase for years to come. And as if pandemic-related food insecurity were not enough, global food supplies could go into major crisis due to the climate, including right here in California. All the more reason to act swiftly on the climate crisis. Buildings account for 40% of our local emissions, mostly due to burning natural gas. Methane, its main ingredient, is up to 80 times more potent a greenhouse gas than CO2. Technology is coming a long way. Cooking on an induction stovetop can be as fast and as responsive as cooking with gas. Heating and cooling a home or apartment using a heat pump eventually leads to lower and lower utility bills. On the other hand, the cost of fossil fuel extraction, such as fracking and offshore drilling, is going to go up and up and up, as will customer bills. We need affordable utility bills for low-income apartment dwellers as well as homeowners. I urge you to vote for the strongest possible REACH code. You have a big opportunity tonight to speed us along to a clean energy future. Going all electric will mean our buildings will run on 100% clean energy. Our youth need you to respond to the climate crisis urgently. Please do so. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Dashiell Leeds.
Hello, my name is Dashiell Leeds. I'm the Conservation Assistant for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. We strongly support the REACH code. We really hope you approve the first reading tonight. I'd like to echo the comments of some of the folks who went before me. I think you can remove some exemptions and have a much more effective code. I'll talk first about commercial kitchens. We believe that induction technology is ready today. Some of the finest restaurants in the country, Michelin-starred restaurants, use induction cooking. It's faster, it's more accurate than gas cooking. And I believe that a way you can move forward with this is to do a hardship exemption for commercial kitchens instead of a blanket exemption. So if there is, like a wood-fired restaurant that can only use a particular type of cooking source, you could do a hardship exemption in your code, where it's the burden would be on the restaurant to prove that their particular cooking style is not feasible under the code, and then they could be granted an exemption. Move on to the affordable housing exemption. Children who grew up in homes with a gas stove, there was a 2013 study that found that those children are 42% more likely to develop asthma than those who don't. So this is a question of sacrificing the health and well-being of affordable housing tenants to exempt affordable housing developers in a situation where they are already okay and will benefit building all electric. I'd also like to touch on utility prices. California residential natural gas prices have increased 3 times faster than electricity prices from 2012 to 2018, and that trend is expected to accelerate. So not only will gas buildings be less healthy for tenants, they're also going to be burdened with the cost of increasing gas, while all of the other buildings in the city will have clean, cheap, all electric power. So I think it's really important when it comes to affordable housing, do not exempt affordable housing buildings from the appliance electrification requirements. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Suzanne Emerson.
Thank you. My name is Suzanne Emerson. In the work I do as a green building consultant and green point reader, I perform combustion safety testing on existing homes. And it always horrifies me when I find gas appliances that are not being properly vented, where the exhaust is going into the home's air, or when I find gas leakage between the gas pipes and the gas appliances. It's just leaking 24/7. I'm concerned about the health and safety effects of burning gas inside our homes. Burning gas in household appliances, especially gas stoves, produces harmful indoor air pollutants, including carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, formaldehyde, and ultrafine particles. Using a gas stove to cook a large meal in a small home can easily result in indoor air quality that is pollution levels that it would be illegal if those same pollution levels were outdoors. They would violate the air quality standards that are applicable. These effects of indoor air quality problems are young children, people with asthma, people with heart and lung disease are especially vulnerable to the toxic effects. So, for example, one study found that a pollution from gas stoves doubles the odds that a woman will experience symptoms of lung disease, and it nearly triples the odds that she'll need asthma medication. Safety is also a huge issue here in earthquake-prone California. Natural gas use in homes is responsible for almost half of all residential house fires, and gas line ruptures after the Northridge earthquake caused about half of the fires from that earthquake. I'm also concerned about the economic impacts. The number one use of payday loans is to pay utility bills. And multiple studies have found that building all electric, both for single family homes and multifamily homes, is cost effective. That the amount of money you save by not putting in those gas lines offsets the slightly higher upfront cost of some of the electric equipment, and then the electric prices over time on a monthly basis are lower. So it is both cost effective and it benefits people's health to go all electric. I encourage you to adopt a robust REACH code. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And last, we have Augustine Angel.
Hello, everyone, and it's Agustin Angel. I just want to say thank you to Mayor Manalo and City Council members for allowing us to be here on this evening and for allowing us to speak. I just want to say and piggyback what a lot of my colleagues have spoken and said. I just want to thank you for consideration of the of adoption of the REACH codes. I just want to just give 3 suggestions of if we were to move forward, just suggestions on the exemption of number 3, 5, and number 8. Just yeah, but overall I'm gonna keep it short and simple, and thank you guys.
Thank you very much for your comments on this. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second.
First and second. Thank you very much. Thank you for all those provided public comment in regards to the REACH codes. I now have further questions in regards to if there is a need for affordable housing developers as far as grants. Is that something that is out there for them in regards to moving to build for electric appliances, and just in that regard, are there opportunities for affordable housing developers to
And I'm happy to respond to that question, Madam Mayor. Again, the cost effectiveness studies indicate that all electric construction is less expensive than building with natural gas, and that's because you don't have to have the plumbing, the metering, venting, and other elements. However, we do know that on the electric vehicle side, there are added costs. And for that purpose, PCE, Peninsula Clean Energy, does offer incentives to cover most or all of the costs associated with the electric vehicle infrastructure associated with the REACH codes.
Okay, thank you very much. So I guess I have a clarification. We have all affordable housing. Is it specified as far as particularly with appliances, or is it everything in that respect? And I think I would ask Ms. Mothershead or Mr. Sagala.
Yeah, so the building electrification side, you would be exempt, and this is similar exemptions of other cities that include affordable housing are Redwood City, Brisbane, Menlo Park, Pacifica, Mountain View, and Saratoga. So for the electrification side, you would be exempt.
And as a point of clarification, this is for projects that are 100% affordable and deed restricted. This is not applying to affordable inclusionary units that are in market rate development. So I just want to make that clarification as well.
Thank you. So you're saying it doesn't include the BMRs that are being built within.
Right, those would have to be all electric, just as the market rate units would be. This is only for 100% affordable projects, and there's actually an income standard that's established and a requirement for deed restriction. So this is mostly the developments we're seeing nonprofit developers building. You know, the big guys like Mid-Penn or Mercy or Bridge. This doesn't mean that they can't build all electric. So this isn't saying they have to use
kids, I'm still in the meeting, y'all.
So, you know, as it was mentioned earlier, is that some of the nonprofit housing developers are actually considering going all electric, and that's something that's in their plans. And so they could certainly build all electric by choice. And as the council has seen, we've actually had developers propose all electric projects even prior to the adoption of this ordinance. As you recall, the Jefferson Elementary School District is proposing 100% electrified buildings. So, you know, we do think that there is great incentive for affordable housing developers to actually go this route, and we think it's likely that they would. We just didn't want to create an additional requirement that they do so. But I do think that things are moving in that on that path.
And Madam Mayor,
I understand it's not a mandate. I mean, they can choose to do build electric, right? But they would be exempt. I understand that. But if I hear that the cost is actually cheaper, what would prohibit them from not? I mean, if it's I guess to me it was more around the cost. Like if this is more costly for them, then I would say we need to exempt them. So I just need more like clarification. I hear from our guests that it's cheaper to build electric, and so I need more data.
So I'll try to offer something, Madam Mayor, if I can. So multifamily housing in general is largely constructed electric for cooking, for space heating, and for clothes drying already, right? So the thing that we're really talking about is domestic water heating. That's the technological challenge. And depending on who you ask, there are some who are a little more experienced, a little less experienced with this system type. It's actually a more complex system type to electrify. It requires more physical space. and more engineering. So part of what is necessary is the training element, so that costs do come down over time. So some affordable housing developers may not have that access to the trained contractors or design engineers, and they may get initial feedback that, yeah, this is going to cost more. We haven't done it yet. It hasn't been performed before. So part of what is coming online to address that market barrier, in addition to everything that Peninsula Clean Energy has stated they're doing, is at the statewide level, there's 2 major programs that are focused on domestic water heating. And these are known as Build and Tech. And there's a huge carve out for economically disadvantaged areas in particular, so that I think there's $43 million, enough to fund about 75,000 installations of water heating, and bring down the cost curves, train the appropriate personnel so that there is better access to design engineers that can actually demonstrate this cost equivalency. A lot of design engineers aren't aware that a typical, or cost estimator isn't aware that a typical multifamily building has to install solar thermal, and they do not account for that cost as part of their, on the gas system, it has to install solar thermal. And if you install electric, you don't actually have to do that. That's a substantial cost savings. So there is some learning to be had. There's some information to be shared, and that's why we're hearing different things from different developers. And I think that's why that's why this flexibility exception was posed, so just to make sure there's nothing potentially there. But many commenters have suggested here it's feasible. It is possible to do. It depends on who you ask. A little bit.
Okay, understood. It depends on the developer, the expertise, and if, okay, so I think in this case, we did talk about how codes can actually be modified, right? I think there's some training that needs to meet, and when that timing occurs, when those programs roll out, then hopefully that provides that opportunity for like affordable housing developers to have that access, so it's not too costly for them, I think. Because we could always adopt and change the exemption, correct, down the line, Ms. Motherhead, right?
Yeah, I can answer that. Yeah, that is correct, Mayor Manolo.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so at this point, are there any other questions? I hear Councilmember DiGiovanni.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Yes, I believe probably the PCE and Mr. Mayor Reyes maybe can answer this. So someone mentioned about where they eliminate the plumbing metering. And as you know, that's one of our buildings and trades. Is there anything that entity can be introduced to that can be a partner in this move towards this future? Is there any way to save those type of jobs, which would be substantial in this move, albeit they support the environment, I'm sure as well too, and things do change. But is there any way to move that industry into that, maybe water saving, I don't know, to bring them along and give them training and to help them to adapt so these jobs won't be lost in our community as well?
Sure. So it's we absolutely want to make sure that workers in the community continue to have good paying jobs. And there are several things to consider there. Number one, much of the new construction that's going up is, of course, multifamily housing, which has much substantial plumbing requirements. Yeah. So that doesn't go away. We're also talking about new construction, which is, as noted earlier, a very small percentage of the buildings work that is occurring in the region. We would also note that many of the water districts are working on recycled water projects of various kinds. That also presents opportunities. So there's a substantial amount. There's no lacking for the amount of work that needs to be done, quite frankly. We certainly would also encourage workers to look at opportunities to continue to do skills building as new technologies develop, going through programs such as the programs available at San Mateo College and the like.
Yeah, great. And then even though I know PC is focused on like you said, the energy and things like that, but even as partners, maybe building together, as Mayor Manala mentioned about the resources as they go forward, maybe the county, like you said, and something can provide support in that manner to provide the resources for the training so there won't be any jobs lost, right?
Absolutely.
And just to bring everybody up into the future. And so, because I don't want people to feel like they're left out. And I'm sure you guys don't either, because we're all in this together. And being after you go to a trade and then you go through all that training and then hear that's your life. And then to hear that things are going to change at first, but to bring them up. And like you said, the water part, that's exciting. And they can partner with, who would they partner with? Would you happen to know that the plumbers could partner with?
Well, and the first thing is just
new?
continuation of that sort of expansion of work associated with water. So that's their kind of bread and butter work.
Okay.
That's going to continue. But then certainly in terms of retraining and other opportunities, the College of San Mateo would be an excellent resource for them. And we are providing some specific training, in particular technologies such as heat pump water heaters, which would often require additional water work as well.
Oh, that's great. And then, because I know, how we are in San Mateo County with labor, our labor council. So I know that Dave Pine's a part of your PCE. So I think we're all labor friendly, but we just want to make sure that none of us are left behind with our San Mateo Labor Council. So I appreciate that. So partnering says it's a little more relaxed where we could all move together. We can move forward together, right? Where everybody feels comfortable and save the environment, yet save our jobs at the same time. So I really appreciate that. That's a part of the equity that you have put into the program. So yeah, that's important. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Fraud, Mario, Ms. Mothershead. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Council Member Sylvester.
Thank you. Just listening to the conversation here, especially regards to union workers, and when I heard the word water, what I think of is plumbers. And as far as I'm concerned, basically, I don't feel the plumbers would really be affected much because they still have to run the pipe. What we are talking about here is to what device they are running the pipe to. And generally it's gas. Now it's going to be electric. So I think it'll be minimal, and I think folks will still have a job. I appreciate the fact that PCE is going to offer resources to potential developers and explain to them, hey, there's reach codes in effect. And if you feel it's going to cost you too much, let us educate you. And this is a way you can go about doing so. So, I'm definitely all for it. I would, listening to a speaker this evening where he talked about loopholes, and even though I want our businesses to thrive, I brought up the case about wood burning stoves. Well, here in Daly City, if we are going to support reach codes, we have to go all in. So I would recommend a friendly amendment or change in the sense that if, as another speaker said, if you can document the fact that this would be a hardship for you because your business requires gas, then it would be incumbent upon that business owner to show proof and to explain why it would be a hardship for that particular owner. However, if you can't document that it's a hardship, I'm sorry, we have to comply with the REACH codes. So I would recommend that exemption and that change and make it more stronger, and in the sense to say, we hear all new developments should be all electric. If it's not electric, you explain to us why it can't be. Just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sylvester. So you introducing a friendly amendment to what's being recommended by staff. And what I'm hearing from you is that we would adopt the model REACH codes. Is that what I'm hearing? In regards, and if there is any one that has that can't afford any part of the program, or I mean, they would, the next steps is what? I mean, they would have to come, I just want to understand the next steps. Would they come to council and show that documentation? I always look towards like the implementation piece of things, so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it was exemption number 3 for commercial. And that if right now, the way it stands right now, if you're saying you're going to open up a wood burning pizza store, all you have to do is say you're opening up a wood burning pizza store and you comply with the REACH codes. However, we want to take that a step further and say, if you're opening up a wood burning pizza stove business, then you have to tell us and basically, hey, I can't open up my business because my business requires that I use gas. And right now, the way the REACH code states, they can come in and open up the business and use gas. So if we add that extra requirement to say, well, we're burning fire pizza, you need to use gas, electric is now in effect, tell us why you need to use gas. And it sounds like it's pretty simple. They would just indicate this is the type of stove they're using, the equipment, and it would not come to council. I believe permitting, Ms. Mothershead and her crew would handle that request. I don't know, am I making sense, Mario or Mr. Farhad?
To me, there's usually in codes, there's thresholds, and we follow the thresholds. There's interpretations that we can make, but it would be difficult to say no. I mean, if someone submitted an application, I would be more likely to say yes. How do I judge whether or not the type of that they cannot use gas or wood, and then provide the justification saying, well, there are electrical equivalences. It may slow things down. You then have to review for that application, discuss it with the director, and make a conclusion, and then provide a justification for that. That's my main concern.
Madam Mayor. Oh, sorry, Glenn, council member. I just feel like it's burdensome upon a business. We're trying to be business friendly with our small business commission. And I think that just adds to, although I like the idea in one aspect, but I think that anything we put, especially having gone through COVID, another layer of things for people to open up a business, we're trying to encourage them and keep less burden on them, less cumbersome. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Well, I think that was only an example. I'm going to say, in the case, they say, for instance, and I don't know if this is true or not. So if I want to open up a chicken and waffle store, and I want to use gas, we say, go ahead, go right ahead, even though we have adopted REACH codes. So if the vendor says, I need to use gas for my business, all they say is, I'm using gas. And just put it down. If they don't, or we don't require some sort of documentation, then what if the place is sold and another person comes in and they can use gas to eternity? We can never go to electrification if at least something is documented. So I'm asking for documentation and not necessarily the approval process to say, no, we're not going to approve that. I just want to see some sort of documentation that says, well, why are you using gas? Because we indicated as such when we first decided upon this new construction.
I'm happy to chime in on this. We've looked at restaurant electrification last year, and there are only a limited set of cooking methods that may not be electrified. One of the most prominent is floor-mounted woks, some of these very large woks. There are some products available widely in Asia, less so in America. These are very energy intensive operations, high BTU operations, and they do use a lot of energy. And unfortunately, there's not heat pump technology available yet on the cooking side. So they have lower limits, lower maximum of possibilities of efficiency there. Councilmember Sylvester, to your point, I think that what it would encourage the applicant to do is consider their options, become familiar with their options and the technologies, and assess what they really need to be gas, whether that is for a floor-mounted wok, whether it's for kind of a performance cooking approach, whether they have a display of cooking. So I think that kind of documentation would help them assess and become more familiar so that they are training themselves in a way in the longer term.
Well, thank you so much. I believe that something is better than nothing. And it can serve a dual purpose in the sense, oh, you know what? This is the method we've always used, but these other methods are also available and they might consider. But in the way the REACH code stands now, basically anyone can just come in and put whatever they want into the business. That's the way it stands now, without having to obtain an exemption. Am I correct?
Yes, yes, you're correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
With that being said, it sounds like I'm outnumbered here, so I would just stick to the plan with the REACH codes, but at least I just wanted to voice my opinion in the sense of obtaining some sort of documentation. So I'll withdraw. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sylvester. Any other feedback or comments from my colleagues? If none, Councilmember Bonaventura.
No, I wanted to say how much I have enjoyed the back and forth with Councilmember Sylvester. I always think he comes up with some really good ideas, and he's really trying. But I think we need to move on and just vote this on.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Bonaventura. Do you have any more comments? I think one caveat in regards to the affordable housing is that I would like to put something in with the ordinance that we would revisit the code and see in maybe a year or 2 years, and I would ask staff that regards to affordable housing exemption. I hear that there's going to be more training so that the cost regarding why particular housing developers see it as costly will start, being more what was the word? It'll be more available to them.
Mhm.
So for me, I'd like to put in the ordinance that we would revisit the code in relation to the affordable housing component in 1 year. That's my friendly amendment. Do I have a second? Or I will bring it. I'll bring it to deliberation. I motion to approve the code with the addition of revisiting the REACH code, particularly around the affordable housing exemption annually.
Second.
Okay. Okay, so I have a second by Council Member Bonaventura. May I have roll call, please?
Madam Mayor, no roll call needed. It's a first reading for a motion for title reading only. So voice vote is sufficient.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for this item.
Actually, can we have a motion for the city attorney to read by title only?
Oh,
with the friendly amendment.
Okay. May I have the city attorney motion to read by title only with the friendly amendment, please?
So move.
Voice vote for everyone.
Second. Was there a second? Okay. Oh yeah, voice vote. Roll call, please.
No roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. This is an ordinance of the City of Daly City amending Chapter 15.60 Energy Code of Title 15 of the Daly City Municipal Code relating to amendments to the 2019 California Energy Code, and we entertain an introduction from the council.
Happy to introduce.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, at this point, I just have to let my colleagues know we'll continue the meeting. There is a recreation meeting, but we have a lot on our agenda. And so to finish business, I will ask city manager if it's possible to relay to the commission that we are still proceeding with our business this evening. Thank you very much. I know they start at 7 o'clock, so please let the commission know that we're still doing city business. Thank you. Okay, I want to thank everyone that has been here for the REACH codes, and thank you for your presentation, your time, to the staff, all the hard work, also to all my colleagues in the deliberation, and thank you. We will now move on to item number 11. Item number 11, design review DR-7-17-12905. New retail office building at 205 San Pedro Road, and we have Mr. Polland.
Good evening, council members. The next item is the design review for a new retail office building at 205 San Pedro Road. Let me share my screen. Let me try that. There we go. Is it coming up for you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, got it. Thank you.
All right. Okay, the project site is a 4,324 square foot vacant lot located on the southwest corner of San Pedro Road at Hill Street. The applicant is requesting approval to construct a 1,204 square foot retail or office building, providing up to 2 tenant spaces with retail, office, or other permitted uses in the BC BART commercial zone. A 5-space parking lot and trash enclosure at the rear of the parcel would be provided. In November of 2017, the Design Review Committee reviewed the design aspects of the site and building. At that time, Dave Moeller, owner of City Toyota, expressed a number of concerns about the project, asserting that the proposed building would obstruct motorists' views at the intersection, creating a dangerous situation to pedestrians and traffic. He also expressed a concern about the height of the building. The committee concurred with Mr. Moeller's assertion that further environmental review is necessary. Subsequently, an environmental impact report was prepared by the city's consultant, David J. Powers and Associates. This slide shows both the front street-facing elevation below and the rear parking lot facing elevation above. The proposed single-story building would be a contemporary design, 24 feet in height, with a glass storefront. The building elevation on both San Pedro Road and Hill Street would be curved, matching the shape of the lot at the San Pedro Road frontage. As a result of initial discussions with staff, the applicant has integrated storefront architectural elements such as awnings and recessed windows, which provide design interest visible from the San Pedro Avenue and Hill Street intersection. The elevation at this location incorporates significant use of storefront aluminum and glass, which complements the architecture of the adjacent automobile dealership showroom. This is a photo of the current condition of the project site. And this slide is a perspective view showing a rendering of the new proposed building. This slide indicates a perspective of the visibility from inside of a vehicle making a right turn onto Hill Street from San Pedro Road. Based on a preliminary review of the project in 2017, staff determined that the project was eligible for a categorical exemption under CEQA guidelines, section 15303C, new construction of small structures, and section 15332, infill development. The Design Review Committee did not concur with this determination and determined instead that an environmental impact report, EIR, was necessary to address several specific topics raised in public comments during the project and to facilitate public participation in the city's planning process. An EIR was therefore prepared and the project in compliance with CEQA guidelines. The EIR identifies no mitigation measures for the project. Staff recommends that the City Council take the following actions: adopt the findings as outlined in the staff report, certify the environmental impact report, and approve the design review DR 7-17-12-905, subject to the findings and conditions outlined in the staff report. And that completes my presentation, and I'm available to answer questions, and the project applicant and the project architect are also available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Palland, for that presentation. Will it just be your presentation this evening, or will the project sponsor be also speaking on the project?
I believe the project sponsor will be speaking. I believe so. I know they are available in this meeting, so I'm not sure if they have a specific presentation prepared for you or not.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Mark Hudak, I represent the applicant, and I have a short presentation, and the project architect also has a short presentation with some visuals, I believe, and we'll try to keep it short in recognition of your time.
Okay, please. Please have present.
So, Madam Mayor and members of the council, Mark Hudak and I represent the owner, Chris Giatinas, and Mark Bucciarelli, the project architect, is also here, and we're available to answer any questions that you have at the end of the presentation. You have a letter from me outlining Chris's position and the facts and figures about this small infill building. I'll try not to repeat what's in the letter, but basically it's a 1,200 square foot commercial building. It's an infill project. It's got a first floor and a mezzanine and full code parking. The site itself is about 4 feet lower than the Toyota parking lot and property. So that needs to be taken into account when we're talking about the height of the building, because relative to Toyota, a 24-foot building is really more like a 20-foot building. The other aspect about the current site is that right now, as you come down San Pedro, you see a rather large field of parked cars, not probably the most attractive visual for this important intersection. The new building would add a lot of architectural interest, as well as convenience for people coming to the BART station. Next point, you have a staff report that has been provided. It shows that this project was thoroughly studied by all the departments in the city, and the staff report recommends approval. Next, as Mr. Pollan noted, a full EIR was prepared on this really small building. Together with the EIR consultants, they had a traffic sub-consultant to assist. Again, studied exhaustively, and there were no significant environmental impacts found from this project. There will be some minor impacts during construction. That's true of any project, but those will all be mitigated by the city's standard practices, so that shouldn't be an issue. There's been an attorney involved from City Toyota. He's raised a lot of issues. Some of them are legal, some of them are not. All of those were responded to by the city's EIR consultant in a 29-page document that you have, and once again, did not change any of the conclusions by the EIR consultant. Next, it's important to note that this project is a clean project in the sense that we don't require any variances for it. There aren't any zoning amendments or other special permits or other special treatment needed. This project conforms with all of your code requirements. And finally, there isn't any opposition to the project that we know of other than from City Toyota. And their basic problem is that they would like to keep an unobstructed view of their parking and facility. And I understand that, but they don't have a legal right to have an unobstructed view. They don't have a legal right to prevent somebody from building a code compliant building on adjacent property. And the claims about CEQA just don't ring true, because CEQA deals with significant environmental impacts. And what City Toyota is arguing is that their business may be affected by this building. Well, CEQA is not in place in order to judge and mediate economic impacts or effects, but only significant environmental impacts. And from this project, the city's own consultants say there are none. So in the end, we don't want you to be misled by the suggestions that you've heard, and I'm sure you'll hear again, that the building ought to be shorter and it ought to be pulled back 4 or 5 feet from the sidewalk. These so-called helpful suggestions from City Toyota are really designed to make the building so small and reduce its square footage to the point where it can't be feasible to build. And once again, that would not be fair to my client. So in the end, we brought before you a simple convenience retail building that meets all of your code requirements. It'll be a good addition to the neighborhood, and it will be a good neighbor to Toyota as well. And with that thought, I'll turn it over to Mr. Bucciarelli, and he'll do his short presentation on the design, and then we'll answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hudak.
I'm broken. All right, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Mark Bucciarelli, architect. I think Brian.
Do you need share screen capacity?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's enabled.
You.
So this is the site plan, and you know, it's really a design that was kind of designed itself. It's was more just an analysis of this is the secondary street, and creating the entry here as far away from the intersection as possible. And you know, conveniently, the geometry of the site is such that this is a straight line, and to get the minimal parking in a one-way would be this diagonal configuration. And so once that's established, then you basically have the footprint to work with, and you know, is basically just following the property line and creating this half dome shape and extruding it up to the height limit. And the square footage of the floor plate is such that it's okay with the parking count. In fact, it's actually a little bit over parked. So by adding some square footage for a mezzanine, it'll be right there. The other rendering that was showed earlier of a car in this position with the visibility through the glass front, Toyota had raised questions about, well, there could be queuing of cars, you know, right at Hill, right at the intersection, and that a driver could, you know, run into them. And I think the rendering shows pretty good that there's very adequate visibility through, that any driver would pick that up, you know, in addition to the stoplight. So that's really the design. I've read through all the conditions of approval, and the only one that I really wanted to raise is that the timing on the building permit. You know, I noticed that it's a 1-year expiration, and I'm wondering if there's some leniency on that. You know, typically, you know, the plan check process alone, you know, could be heavy, even though it's a small building. So I'm wondering if that could be revised to, we would definitely submit for building permit within a year, but you know, as far as the plan check process goes, you know, we would work on it with deliberate speed with the city to, you know, to gain approval. And I think that's really all I have to add.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And at this point, are there questions from my colleagues, or is there any public comment on this item?
Mayor, we have 2 hands raised.
Okay. Do my colleagues want public comment first, or do you have any burning questions at the moment?
I have some questions, Madam Mayor.
Okay, please.
So am I understanding that as far as the safety issue of this intersection, and this is for Brian, I want to get your opinion on this. So according to the map that I saw, can you go over again with me when cars are allowed to make the turns into and out of that intersection and into the I guess the driveway?
Sure. Let me try and share my screen again so I can get to that slide. And we can talk a little bit about that. And also I believe the traffic consultant is also here and can confirm, if I'm incorrect about any of these items, they can confirm. But so at the intersection here of San Pedro and Hill, there is.
Can you make that bigger?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's okay. I can try to absorb it. Go ahead.
Okay, so there is a.
Try Control plus. Hold down your Control key and hit the plus sign.
All right, try that. That didn't do it.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, so there is a signalized intersection here, and on there's two lanes of traffic going each direction on San Pedro Road, and then there are heading northbound on Hill Street. There's 2 lanes turning onto San Pedro Road, one going right, one going left. And then if you are making a right turn from San Pedro onto Hill Street, it would be a stop on red and then go if it's clear, or a green light when you would turn from the right lane. And then if you're going somewhat westbound, I guess it's sort of southwest, but if you're going westbound on San Pedro Road, and you wanted to make a left turn on Hill Street, there's a signal there with a turn indicator. The traffic flow through the parking lot is one way only. So you enter on Hill Street and move one direction, and then when you exit onto San Pedro Road, there's a right turn only, so you cannot exit and make a left turn onto San Pedro Road. So that should take care of any traffic related issues. The traffic consultant in their preparation found that the queuing would not be an issue based on the amount of traffic they anticipate for this size of retail store. So it seems like there should not be any traffic flow issues.
So let me ask you, if I'm going downhill towards San Pedro,
yes,
can I make a left onto that driveway?
I believe you can.
Okay, so that's an issue that I see, because if I'm making a left on that driveway, I see that distance of the traffic coming from San Pedro.
That's right, Martin. You want chicken? Pizza, please. No pizza. No, please. Hi, can I make a comment?
Wait, can you hear me?
This, right? Hi, this is Shirley, with the engineering department.
Let me just a minute. So my question, my issue was, so if I'm hearing a lot of feedback. Are you guys hearing that? Okay, so if I'm making a left, I'm going down hill towards San Pedro, and I'm making a left into that driveway. The two problems I see are, number one, that distance from the driveway to San Pedro for a car to be coming off of San Pedro onto Hill, and seeing it in time is very concerning. And then the other issue that I think was clear is that the building itself is tall enough the way it's proposed that I could see it being an obstruction and a hindrance on the ability for the drivers to see properly coming from San Pedro. So that's my primary concern. I mean, I travel that intersection frequently, and so I know that area when it comes to the intricacies of that intersection, and I know that that's heavily used by the pedestrians who are using BART, and also with that shopping center with the Planet Fitness. And so that's the question. So go ahead. Thank you.
So I think if the question is whether or not you can make a left turn into the project site from San Pedro going, I guess, westbound, then the answer would be no. There's a double yellow over there right by the area in front of that driveway. And because it is a one-way direction into the project site, that's an exit-only driveway. And vehicles would only be able to enter from Hill Street. So they would make a left from San Pedro onto Hill and then make a right turn into the project site.
Okay, thank you very much for those comments. I know there's some issues sound-wise. If so, we'll be moving on to our public comment at this time.
Madam Mayor? Madam Mayor?
Okay. You have a
something wrong
comment?
with our
Okay.
echoes.
Prior to
Something-
public
something
comment,
wrong
go
with
ahead,
our
Council
echoes.
Member DiGiovanni, please.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure what technical problems we're having. But anyway, I have a question. So Brian, and maybe Shirley's on here as well. Where was Vision Zero in this planning? I thought that when we adopted it, that we were supposed to have it in any of our plans as far as safety for especially the pedestrians. As I see going around, that says that corner. I believe the slide says, what does it say on that corner? Visibility, right? The corner visibility where the pedestrians are walking around. I don't see any setbacks for that as well. Like when people go around that corner for the visibility and for the wideness of like people with wheelchairs and coming across, it's pretty busy during certain times, especially when the BART starts moving again. So I want to know what aspects of Vision Zero, which is supposed to be our plan, was applicable in this plan. Please, either one, Brian or Shirley, or both.
Council members, through the mayor, this is Mike Van
Oh,
Langen.
hi, Michael.
Hi. So that the council knows, the subject project was subject to a complete environmental impact report. The traffic consultant that worked on that report and evaluated the project's safety considerations in that vein is actually present at the meeting should the council desire to call on that person.
Yes, please, as far as a Vision Zero. Who would I address that?
That is are you available to address the visibility topic?
Well, yes, this is, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Ad van den Hout. I'm with Hexagon Transportation Consultants, and we did the traffic analysis for this project. I think one thing we need to point out is that this is a very, very small project that generates, depending on what goes in there, if it's a little office space or if it's a very small retail facility, it generates about one trip in the morning and 3 or 4 to 5 trips in the afternoon. So traffic generation for this particular facility is extremely small. If you put it into context, how much traffic that would generate in the morning, it's basically one car per hour, which is almost negligible. So from that point of view, it's a very small project that generates hardly any traffic. Regarding the queuing that was referenced earlier, when traffic uses the facility and comes into the project, they would turn into the driveway from Hill Street, making a right turn. There would not be any queuing because there is hardly any conflict. The only conflict that the traffic would experience would be from pedestrians that would walk on the sidewalk. So in terms of, again, I want to emphasize that the traffic volumes for this particular project are extremely low. So in terms of visibility, what happens when the traffic exits the driveway? They have to stop, obviously, to give the right of way to traffic on San Pedro Road. They only can turn left out of the driveway, and so they have to nudge on up to the road before they turn right, and they can see then if there are any pedestrians crossing the driveway to which they have to give the right of way, of course. So we don't see any safety concern. There's many situations like that in the city, and I think we gave a couple of examples in our report that shows similar entries and exits at gas stations where traffic gets in and out of the gas station near an intersection that is controlled by a traffic signal.
Okay, so Brian, would you do me a favor? Would you go back to that map again, the one that Councilmember Buenaventura asked for?
Sure, I will do that. I had trouble turning my mic back
I'm sorry.
when I was in share screen. That's why I wasn't responding a moment ago. But I'm going to go back to share screen and let's see if that. Hopefully that.
So hopefully, Shirley, are you still on? Because she was part of the Vision Zero as well. So when you go around that curve, and then there's also a bus. And then for me, I too travel down that road quite frequently, and finding it one car, I've seen it pretty busy. And when people are crossing that street, and then here's a bus is going to turn right onto Hill Street, heading towards the Coma BART. And the bus has to go all the way and back practically where it says keep clear. They have to cut so hard that they can barely get where that one car, where I see more than one car when frequent that place. And then that's a keep clear there. And then there's going to be another car right where you're supposed to turn in. So I think that's a safety issue because first of all, there's a big bus. That's a visibility point where people that are pedestrians are not going to be able to see at all with those buses, and they frequent the Coma BART. So that's a big concern. And again, if Ms. Shirley would ask, or Brian or Michael, where is the Vision Zero that we worked so hard on for the pedestrian safety implemented in each of these projects that I see a potential for pedestrian, there's no setbacks. It's very narrow there on the sidewalks around that area. And the visibility, when they showed even the corner going around, you're supposed to be able to see through the glass. People are not going to look through the glass. They're just going to go walk around the corner because they're headed to transportation, and somebody's going to get hit. That, I mean, that is like, that, I don't think that that would even match our Vision Zero that we adopted.
Can I make a response? So the proposal doesn't change anything about the width of the sidewalk, the crosswalk where it is, the ADA accessible ramp up the sidewalk from the street level onto the sidewalk, the fact that buses have to make a very sharp turn. All of those factors are in play today. Having the building there, I personally, I'm not seeing how that it would affect visibility for pedestrians making a turn. Walking along the sidewalk, say from along San Pedro Avenue, and then making a right turn on to Hill Street. How does a building there change their visibility of the street?
Because they're walking on the sidewalk up San Pedro, and there before where there's no building. The only way they can see to go around the corner or across, they used to like glance over to the right, because I've walked there before. Then you are going to have a building. You're not going to have any visibility to be able to see on the sidewalk going around the corner. You can't see through that. There's a building. All of a sudden there's a building. There wasn't a high building. There was clear. So the natural thing for a person when you're walking, as I've walked there, you look to the right. Well, when you look to the right and you're going up San Pedro, you're not going to be able to see. And then when that bus is turning, and then there's people walking from the other way, I don't know. I think I'm looking at it as a safety issue, and where are the setbacks? There's no setbacks?
There's no required setback there. Generally speaking, from my understanding, planning usually encourages commercial buildings to be pulled closer to the street and the parking to be located at the rear, so you don't have that sea of cement jungle and cars entering and exiting across the sidewalk where people are walking. So generally speaking, my understanding is it's considered safer for commercial buildings to be pulled closer to the street and for parking to be located at the rear, where there's only one point of entrance and exit, as opposed to a sea of pavement and cars parked and a building far back on a lot.
That's okay. Thank you, Brian. So when you go through that and you're going to mass transit, right? You're going to the BART. So there's tons of cars. I'm sorry. I mean, with all due respect, maybe during COVID, but there's tons of cars that are going on this road because people park there, and even at the BART, at the Coma BART station, there is no parking sometimes in the morning because people are coming from everywhere to get a parking spot to use that BART. So there's going to be more than one car. Anyway, so I yield and I'll listen and after that. Sorry, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. For now, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your
thank you, staff,
and comments on that, and thank you, staff. From my colleagues, are there any other questions at this time? I think Council Member Sylvester unmuted.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So okay. I was eating, so I turned off the camera. Anyway, thank you very much. I will defer until I hear comments from the public. I do have some questions, but I want to gather all the information first. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member Sylvester, for that. And at this point, I do have some concerns around the safety aspect of it. I mean, I have seen when the buses turn right on that location, and even sometimes when the buses turn, they actually at one point, I think I remember seeing it even like go onto the sidewalk. So that turn right there, is pretty dangerous as where it stands as well right now. But so that's just my main concern in regards to this. But at this point, I see 3 hands up for a public comment. So if there's anyone else in the audience, please let us know. But I see 3 hands up at this point, and I will pass it on to Leilani. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And we'll call, just as a reminder, there's 2 minutes to speak. I will let you know when your time is up. First, we have Steve Atkinson.
Mayor Manalo and council members, thank you. I'm Steve Atkinson from Eric Fox, attorney for City Toyota. For the reasons set forth on our letters, we recommend that you decline to certify this flawed CEQA document for reasons explained in my letter, including its inaccurate assessment of vehicle trips on which so much of this no traffic problem conclusion is based. In my limited time tonight, I want to focus, however, on your authority under your design review provisions, which are explained in more detail in my letter. In order to approve a project under design review, you must find that it's in the best interest of public safety and the general welfare. This is a required finding. We don't think you should make those findings and can make those findings because this project creates traffic safety issues due to its unusual location and design, and because it unnecessarily, unreasonably blocks the view of City Toyota, a major city revenue source. The height at this location is inappropriate due to its impact on neighboring property, and the lack of any setbacks causes traffic safety issues. I would comment, by the way, this picture of looking through the windows around the corner ignores the fact that when the building is occupied, you won't be able to see through those windows. It'll be a store. The applicant may argue that the height and setback comply with zoning, but for design review, that doesn't mean you can't impose additional requirements in design review context. Also, the EIR and the staff report generally conclude that the project does not present traffic safety issues. However, you as council can use your own common sense and own observations and make your own judgments. You're not bound by these determinations. And as noted, this project ignores Vision Zero, which says you should take into account the predictable misbehavior of drivers. And this EIR says specifically, we didn't consider that. If you decide you want to approve something.
Sorry, Mr. Atkinson, your time has expired. Thank you for your comments. Next, I will call Dave Mueller.
Thank you, Mayor Manalo. And thank you for my 2 minutes. I would like to ask that if possible, if I could have another minute or two, considering that this has gone back and forth over several years. And I would like to point out some of the traffic problems of someone who's been here for 21 years that I think has been missed in this, but I'm going to need just a minute or two extra to get to there. So I will go as quickly as I can over my points, and then I will come to traffic if you allow me the additional time. I think the first thing to point out is that they're saying that City Toyota is making an argument that this would impact our business, and it would. But that's not our argument. Our argument is that this would impact the city of Daly City. And this is design review. And there's a lot of CEQA and lawyer language. But in design review, the city council must make a finding that the project is in the best interest of the public health and general welfare of the community. And as a longtime partner of City of Daly City, I would like to remind you all, and I know many of the council know this, that if you look back to a full year pre-COVID sales, in 2019, City Toyota sold over 5,700 vehicles and generated over 175 million of taxable sales. That's just shy of 15 million in sales tax. Okay, on a per vehicle basis, that's about $4,000 a car. And just to the city itself, on their share of that and the business license, it's over $400 a car. And when you're talking about 5,000 vehicles impacting our business, impacts your revenue and the general interests of the city of Daly City and their community. The vehicles that we put on the front line have the fastest turn rates, and it's most true for almost any dealership. And if you pass us, will it completely stop our sales? No, but could it impact it 5% on the most turning vehicles? Of course it is. That's why we spend so much money detailing and merchandising those vehicles. The applicant says it will have no impact on our business, and that's just false. Absolutely false, and it will have an impact on Daly City's revenue. You know, and the negative impacts of putting a 24-foot wall in the guise of a building with no asserted purpose to the height, okay, is not in the best interest of the community. And not having any setbacks, when City Toyota has a 10-foot setback on Hill, and they're saying this is a 0-foot setback, is ridiculous and unsafe. And all of our comments and letters and on the EIR have simply been dismissed. It is the applicant's burden to prove and come forth with a proposal of something that's not detrimental to the interests of the city. The history of this parcel is that it was a remnant of Joe Conti's via eminent domain. It was never designed to be a standalone piece. And the difficulties related to it were well known by the applicant when they purchased it. And they're trying to shove this project down your throat with a bunch of legal ease. And it is your duty, and you have the full purview and wherewithal to make the decisions in design review.
Mr. Mueller?
Yeah.
You've had additional time over the 2 minutes. We thank you for your comments.
Ms. Manalo, can I point out some traffic comments with the screen? Will you give me that leave? That might be helpful to council. If Brian puts up a screen, should only take me a minute.
Sure. If it's helpful as far as the diagram and please pull up the diagram.
Screen? Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. The first thing I'd like to point out is that the council needs to and has the wherewithal and the right to assess the real world situation, what's going to happen here, not just what a traffic consultant that's understating the flow and use of this building. The first thing I'd like to point out is they have the traffic exiting onto San Pedro. If you look at the angle that it's going at, it's actually almost going head on to the traffic in San Pedro. And the people would be forced to make a 270-degree right turn, okay? It's not gonna happen. They're not gonna be able to go on the first lane. And they're also, if they wanna go left on San Pedro, they're gonna shoot straight across it. That's the real world situation that's gonna happen, and you're gonna get somebody killed. The second thing I'd like to point out is they have the cars being able to turn left into this property on Hill Street. If they'd shown a bigger map, you could scroll down and you see the double yellow line that gets a little wider towards City Toyota's interest. This very design review said that you can't turn left into City Toyota because it was too close to the traffic, to the corner, and I believe in 05, okay? This is much closer. Why could you not turn left into City Toyota on Hill Street, but you can when you're only 20 yards closer to the intersection? The last thing is, as been pointed out, what happens is the traffic pulls up too close on this keep clear, they don't follow it. And the buses have to back up and turn right again. And you put a building and you block the view. It's irresponsible to not have proper setbacks. I remind you, at Hill Street, we have 10 feet. This project is 0. It would be reckless to approve this as is without putting conditions, and you have the authority to do it. Thank you.
Next, we have Theodore Tronco.
Hello, my name is Judor Tronco. I'm a resident here. For this intersection, I don't know if it was studied or suggested, but I would suggest, if possible, to create a pedestrian scramble. I think that would solve the whole idea of what for public safety or people crossing the street. So that would, like, temporarily stop all traffic and allow pedestrians to cross. And that could either be permanent, or you could have it temporary for certain hours of the day where there is high pedestrian traffic. And I just want to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. That's all the raised hands, Mayor.
Thank you, everyone that has spoken on this item in regards to this on the agenda. At this point, I know that one of my colleagues wanted to wait after public comment. So I see you unmuted, Councilmember Sylvester.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple of questions that I will request an answer, and then I'll make my comments and thoughts. The first is, what is the height limit of the properties across the street on San Pedro? The auto body shop, the burrito place, chicken and waffles. What's the height of those buildings?
Are you asking what their constructed height is, or what's the maximum height allowed in the zone?
Oh, well, since you asked, Mr. Lunkhausen, if you can entertain and provide two answers, that would be great. The constructed height and what's allowed.
I don't know that we know either one, but we can find out for you pretty quick.
Okay. While you're looking that up, to Ms. Shirley, the ingress, that question was answered. The ingress to the proposed site is on San Pedro, and the egress is, on Hill Street was the ingress, and the egress is San Pedro only. Is that correct?
Yes, ingress on Hill and egress on San Pedro.
Okay. And is it true? Well, it looks like it's true. I can see the schematic diagram for City Toyota, which is further down on Hill Street, yet they have a double yellow line. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what that tells me, as per the penal code, you're supposed to treat the double yellow line as a raised median. So basically, no one is supposed to turn left over that double yellow line.
Yes.
And it appears to me that the double yellow line provides some sort of safety in the sense of turning vehicles. I mean, by the time it gets to City Toyota, it's kind of minimum, and it shoots to one double yellow line. Okay, got it. And I have City Toyota on Hill Street. Subsequently, because of the double yellow line, folks on the egress of City Toyota can turn right turn only. Is that correct?
Much
Have
better.
a shared screen of Street View.
Wow, it's better.
Okay.
Much
Great,
better.
Mike. That's excellent. Can I get an answer to City Toyota? Folks on the egress onto Hill Street can only turn right. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's a right turn only sign on the exit right here. You can only turn right, and you can see the back of the sign in front of that pole.
Okay.
I think someone's pointing to it, and you have to turn right coming out of City Toyota, and you cannot turn left into it from Hill Street. You can see the double yellow, and you can see the pedestrian.
Okay, great. And lastly, was that question about the adjacent buildings on San Pedro across the street? How tall are those buildings?
Well, the maximum height in the zone is 35 feet. The construction there looks to me, I'm going to have to estimate that just based on the adjacent light standard, probably close to that, between 30 and 35 feet.
30 feet?
I'm thinking this light, I don't know, Shirley, if you know the height of light standard, just matching that, but probably about 25, 30 feet.
Yeah, it's probably in that range.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to have to kind of guesstimate on that one, council member, but the maximum height in this is the property across the street is in the same BART commercial zoning district that the subject property is in, and the height limit is 35 feet maximum.
Okay, thank you. All right, so my questions have been answered, and I would like to bring up the following to my colleagues as a comment. First of all, I respect the profession of traffic consultants, but we have too many variables involved in regards to the report that we obtain. For instance, a traffic consultant said that a piece of property, commercial property on Washington Street would not really pose a problem, but it does pose a problem. Who is to say that we won't have a problem at this location? I'm not saying I don't trust the traffic report, but I am saying that there's another term that I heard this evening, someone made mention, and that term is called misbehavior. And I think that that is the problem that we are having on the Washington Street commercial property, but that's not the question here. The question here is, will folks misbehave and cross the double yellow line on San Pedro to make a left turn when they're exiting the subject property? I think they will. And I feel that that will cause a problem, misbehavior. Having vehicles enter the subject property on Hill Street would cause a queue up problem based upon the time of day.
Yep.
And simultaneously, if we have somebody wanting to make a left turn from Hill Street into the property, whereas the perspective that I saw that there's a vehicle in the driveway blocking the sidewalk, we don't know if they will present a queue up problem. And so I have concern about that. I think the setback is a marvelous idea. And as some of my colleagues, I have driven the area, and I don't like it when I have to see buses back up so that they can make that turn. I do understand that the other side of Hill Street has a keep clear part to enable the buses to turn, but that don't always work. If I were to approve this, I would like to see either a barrier or these rubber cones on San Pedro to prevent folks from even thinking about turning left onto San Pedro from when exiting the property. I am concerned about the height. If I understand this is supposed to be an office location with a mezzanine. I mean, and this is just my opinion, I feel that putting in a mezzanine only increases the height just to spite City Toyota. And that's just my opinion. I would want a setback to provide more visibility for drivers, bus drivers, and pedestrians. I heard a comment that once the building is occupied, we don't know how much of those windows will be blocked. We do not know if the windows will be tinted. It's too many variables here, and I'm uncomfortable with it. So with that being said, those are my comments. And I thank you, Madam Mayor, for the time.
Vice Mayor, could you take over? There's some technical difficulties right now with the mayor.
Sure. Any more comments from any of the my council or from colleagues?
Vice Mayor, may I?
Yes, go ahead, council member.
Thank you,
Giovanni.
Vice Mayor Dr. Rod. Thank you very much. Yeah, Shirley, would you please, along with Michael, again address, he read just that one statement from our Vision Zero, and according to our Vision Zero, it really doesn't match what we adopted. It doesn't really reflect when we did all the Vision Zero, in my opinion. Would you mind expanding on that and see, because I thought, I didn't see anything statement of any of that in our report of our Vision Zero or how it applied or any of that. If anybody in the staff would like to address that, I'd be welcome it, please.
Sure, Council Member.
Oh, thank you, Michael.
The Design Review Committee required that suggested that an environmental impact report be prepared to evaluate whether this project had any environmental impacts, had any impacts upon the environment. As part of that, the city has a consultant that prepared that study and hired a traffic expert, and that expert's available tonight to provide testimony on this matter. The traffic consultant that was hired did not find that there was any site visibility issues associated with the proposed building. More specifically, the Vision Zero program, of course, is intended to minimize the impacts of projects on pedestrians. And again, there was a study prepared that addressed that. I don't know if there was any other staff that wanted to talk about that. We can do that now.
Yes, I can comment in addition to that, Michael. Councilmember Di Giovanni, your recollection in regards to our Vision Zero is correct in terms of us going through the Vision Zero action plan that we prepared. The main purpose of that action plan is to look at projects that the city does in regards to our paving projects, safe routes to school projects, and focusing on areas that are within the high injury network that could be done in conjunction with some of those city projects. This particular project, as Michael indicated, the impacts that were generated by this project through the EIR, they did not find any impacts as a result of that. And so based on that, the applicant basically isn't obligated to mitigate any impacts because they didn't find any impacts. If there are existing issues, then that's a separate issue because it's not something that was generated as a result of the project. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you to all of you. Thank you to the staff. But so when the traffic engineer was given this, was he given the guidelines of our Vision Zero, or are they saying that the Vision Zero is not applicable to this project? Because my understanding was, but I could be wrong, because I know we have a long ways to go to implement it in a lot of different areas, I guess, in our general plan, but we're going to make sure that, I thought it was for all everything we were going to look at, review. Mr. Chu, is that right?
Yeah, Michael, you can jump in, but it's my understanding when the consultants are doing the environmental impacts, they follow the guidelines as stated in CEQA and they look specifically at the environmental impacts. On the traffic side, they are looking at traffic issues, safety issues, and based on the results of their investigation, they did not find any issue. And as a result of that, then they don't have an obligation to mitigate issues that theoretically there aren't any. So
Okay, so I understand that. So what they're saying is basically that they don't really have to take into that consideration at this time, and then maybe going forward we can make sure that that is more implemented to any of the consultants that. Well, we can talk about that another time, but that is saying what it is now, but not saying what it is, which we already know for those of us that travel that. With all due respect, that one car theory is even during COVID, going around that corner, those buses, and then as the mayor indicated, the buses have clipped that corner a couple of times. I'm not comfortable. There's 0 setbacks. That's not comfortable. We can't afford to lose. And we have a lot of pedestrians. And that San Pedro is a very busy street. So I don't know, what time of day they're out there, but I'm just not comfortable. And given the statement of reading our Vision Zero, I understand the CEQA and how it's written, and that's something that we can't overturn, but this doesn't really correlate for me and what we worked on as a member of the Vision Zero. It didn't feel like it correlated. So, but I appreciate all the staff. And I know that, you guys have to follow the guidelines of certain things, but at that, I don't feel comfortable with the safety aspects to the people in our community. Even for the bus drivers, it's a distraction with that height as they go around the corner. How are they going to see someone? And we know that people cut across there. I mean, I'm sure that my colleagues have probably seen that, like young people running across, they don't go to the corner. And that's pretty scary. I don't want to lose anybody in our community or have anybody injured. At this time is too high. Having 0 setbacks is unacceptable. And a mezzanine, I don't think is necessary. And it does impact. So thank you very much. And thank you, Vice Mayor, Dr. Rod. And thank you, Mr. Chu, Michael, everyone, Shirley, Brian, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
DiGiovanni, I'm back. I apologize. My other computer, it had no more battery. But I'm back on here. I know everyone's providing their comments in regards to this. I know it was Councilmember Sylvester and now Councilmember DiGiovanni. Are there any other comments from my colleagues? And thank you, Vice Mayor, for holding it down.
Anytime.
Oh, I just want to add, if it's okay, that, the fact that when you ride by a business, if it's not visible, then in just in a basic marketing aspect, you can't calculate the numbers. But part of marketing, even if you're doing campaigning or what have you, we all know is visibility for 3 to 5 seconds, I believe is the timing in marketing. So that visibility and to sell something is very important. So that's just my intake. And I think that there would be a significant impact on the city of Toledo. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Welcome back.
Thank you, Councilmember DiGiovanni. Any other comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, no hands are raised. I am now asking if there's anyone on the council that would like to put a motion for this item. Okay, I am Is there an, I'm entertaining a motion for this item. I am hearing none. And so I'm assuming there's no motion on the floor.
Maybe we can ask the city attorney, Madam Mayor, procedurally, if there's no motion, I'm assuming it dies and we don't reach to the point of even having a vote, or is a vote necessary in order for us to vote no if that is the will of the council?
So this is a design review. I will defer to the planners. If there's no action on this item, this design review is just not approved. Therefore, the project is not approved. Is that correct?
I think we need to confirm if it's subject to permit streamlining.
That's what my question is.
Well, we're requesting approval or denial one way or the other.
Okay, so to the extent that there's a possibility of the Permanent Streamlining Act, Councilmember Benaventura, we will need to have an affirmative vote on this. So we would have to have a motion either to approve or deny the project.
All right, then I'll make a motion to deny the project.
We have a first by Councilmember Buenaventura.
Second.
Okay, so could we have a roll call on that vote, please?
Mr. Buenaventura?
Aye.
Dr. Rod?
Aye.
Ms. DiGiovanni?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
I want to thank everyone that came for public comment for this item and everyone that presented this evening. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 12. We have everyone for item number 12, please. Major subdivision sub 1220-14799, an amendment to the existing use permit UPR-719-14111. Subdivide into condominiums mixed-use apartment building at 1698 Mission Street, Mission and Goth intersection. Mr. Van Lukhuysen.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Manalo, members of the City Council. This is a proposal to subdivide into condominiums an already approved apartment building located at 6098 Mission Street. The project's located at the northeast corner of Mission and Gothi. We've provided a slide to show that the existing apartment building is, again, already been approved. The recently the state legislature approved legislation that would allow for time extensions for projects due to the COVID pandemic. So the current building's design review and use permit expire February 6, 2022. And so the current application is to take what's already approved and amend it to be condominiums for the 36 apartment units. Here's the project site location, like I said, northeast corner of Gothi and Mission Street. Here's a photograph of the existing site. It's a vacant site. It's previously a gas station many years ago. Of note in this picture, the billboard that's at the right side would be torn down and replaced with the apartment building. The existing Samtrans and Muni stop that's located here would be unaffected. These are some slides of the adjacent uses, Walgreens to the west and some lower commercial buildings to the east on Mission Street. There's sort of a strip mall development across Mission Street to the south and some residential mixed use to the southeast. So the currently proposed project is, again, it's an existing approved 36 unit mixed use apartment buildings, 21 one-bedroom apartments that were previously studios. So these were, as approved, they're currently studios and the applicant's proposing to turn them into one-bedroom apartments. 15 two-bedroom apartments would remain unchanged. The ground level retail is 1,600 square feet. That would not be changed. The parking for the project is provided, and this is already approved. 39 parking spaces accessed by a park lift system. There's about 4,000 square feet of private deck and 2,000 square feet of common decks for about 6,100 square feet of open space. And again, removal of the billboard. The parcels have actually already been merged. There's several parcels underlying this, and they've already been merged. This is what the building is already approved to look like. We're just providing it as a piece of information. Ground level retail with residential above. And this is the actual map that the Planning Commission has advanced to the City Council for review and approval, the subdivision map that would turn the 36 apartments into condominiums. The project is subject to the city's affordable housing ordinance. Upon issuance of a building permit, 7 of the units would be affordable to households earning 120% of the area median income. And the applicant is requesting a waiver of 9 parking spaces under state density bonus law. The state density bonus law allows the City Council to grant waivers that make the project more actually buildable, feasible. The applicant is, as indicated previously, proposing to turn some of the studios into 1-bedrooms just to make them more livable. This, however, triggered a 0.5 parking space increase in each one of those units. And so the applicant is requesting that the City Council grant a parking concession under the state density bonus law. The staff is supportive of that. We think that the units will actually just be more livable as 1-bedrooms rather than 2. One thing of note in this project is that if they actually act on and construct these as condominiums, they'll actually be providing units as opposed to paying a fee. So that's one of the good outcomes of the condo project. We are recommending, and we've discussed with the applicant, a slight change to the conditions of approval. When the ground level retail is constructed, we want a leasable space there with some finishes so that it's not just a shell that nobody can lease or rent. We just are clarifying that we would like the bathroom to have a lavatory and a water closet, another way of saying a toilet and a place to wash hands in the proposed retail space. Project is exempt from CEQA. Subdivision map is exempt from CEQA. And there's findings that are included in the staff report. I won't go through each one of these. They're findings that are mandated by the city zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance. Planning Commission reviewed the project and is recommending to the City Council approval of the major subdivision and amendment to the use permit. There's an existing use permit, as it indicated, needs to be amended to include the condominium aspect of the project. Condominiums require a use permit, so that's the reason for amending the use permit. If there's any questions, the city staff's available to answer those. The applicants are also present in the Zoom call.
Thank you very much for your presentation on this. If the project sponsor wants to speak, I will give you the opportunity to do so at this time. If not, then I will now ask my colleagues if there's any comments or questions. I don't see any hands raised. Let's see. Oh, no hands raised at this time in regards to the project. Okay. At this time, if there are no comments on this project, I move to approve major subdivision sub 1220-14779 amendment to existing use permit UPR-7-19-14111 subdivide into condominium mixed use apartment building at 1698 Mission Street.
Second.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a second by Councilmember Buenaventura. At this point, may we have roll call, please, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Dr. Rod,
Aye.
Ms. DiGiovanni,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester,
Glenn Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo.
Aye. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk, for that. I do have a quick question for the project sponsor, or in this regard. Given the approval of this, is there a particular timeline to the project?
We are at the very final stages with the engineering department on issues around the sidewalk and trees and such, but it could start this in the next month, 2, or up to 4 months, maybe, who knows? It's hard, but it's very close to starting.
Okay, so for clarification, last time I saw a signage on there that said it was for sale, as far as the entitlements or whatnot, and is that changed?
No, the project itself is
Okay.
being offered for sale for a new partner to build it. Yes.
Okay, so it's being offered for sale with a new partner. Got it. Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Sylvester.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And what I'm not hearing here is, and that was an excellent question you proposed. What I surmise is that this project is going to be for sale, already entitled. Is that correct? Because we could just sell the project and then the developer has to get entitled, but this just makes it easier. Hey, it's already entitled for this and it's up for sale. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And we hope something can come very soon. We've waited long enough. I wish you the best of luck. And if there's anything I remembered about this project was the concern about the shadows.
I remember.
Where the sun rises and
I remember.
reduce the light. So things I never forget. But congratulations, and we're looking forward. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 13. Awards of bids and contracts for appropriating funds and award of construction contract for Muscle Rock 2019 Gabion Wall and Stormwater Maintenance Project. Mr. Furr?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll be doing the presentation this evening. Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. This next item is to appropriate funds and award of construction contract for the Muscle Rock 2019 Gabion Wall and Stormwater Maintenance Project. As most of you know, the Muscle Rock landfill is a closed landfill. It was closed in 1978. Prior to its closure, there was improvements that was done to stabilize the site. Some of the improvements that were done were constructing gabion walls to support the minor localized slope failures. There was also a surface drainage system that was installed to collect the surface water and divert it to the ocean. And then also there was a detention and siltation basins that was constructed at the site to retain sediments from stormwater runoff. Daly City, we have a permit from the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and that permit requires the city to maintain all devices that was installed so that they continue to operate as intended without interruption. We, the city, are required to do semi-annual reports to the regional board that include conditions of the storm drain system, the gabion walls, and maintenance items that was performed during that monitoring period. On March 25th of 2019, the City Council awarded a contract to Tetra Tech for the design of the Muscle Rock 2019 gabion wall and stormwater maintenance project. The scope of work included relocation of an existing storm drainage system, reconstruction of existing gabion walls that have failed, site grading and slope maintenance activity, and then also culvert cleaning and miscellaneous site maintenance. The construction project will facilitate the city's compliance with the Regional Water Quality Control Board and other regulatory agency requirements. The project was advertised on November of 2020, and we received 11 bids total. Those were received on March 24th of 2021. The bids range from $798,169 to $2,747,599. Brandon Corporation of Morgan Hill, California was the low bidder. They've been in business since 1993. They have the required licenses. And then they've also done work for the city of Redwood City and the county of Santa Cruz. The references did indicate that they did acceptable work for those agencies. This bid is approximately 24% lower than the engineer's estimate. So we had a very good bid with many bidders. If this project is approved, the project will start next month, and it is expected to be completed by October of this year. The total estimated construction cost, including construction contingency and inspection and admin costs, is a total of $1,037,620. In order to fully fund the project, an additional $820,000 is needed. If approved, this action will appropriate $820,000 from the fiscal year 2020-2021 unallocated solid waste franchise fees to fully fund this project. So in summary, staff is recommending that the City Council approve the design documents for the Muscle Rock 2019 gabion wall and stormwater maintenance project, affirm the CEQA determination of categorical exemption, accept all bids, and award a construction contract to Brandon Corporation of Morgan Hill in the amount of $798,169. Appropriate $820,000 of the solid waste franchise fee to fully fund the project, and then finally to authorize the city manager to execute all necessary contracts to complete the project. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions from council. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Councilmember Bonaventura.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Chu, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna know what question I'm gonna ask you, which is, we have, I know that we've talked about the city and particularly your efforts at finding vendors or bids that take into account Black and Brown communities and making sure there's some outreach to them and giving them an opportunity to have a responsive bid to these almost $1 million projects where being spent. And so I guess my twofold question is, what, in terms of the outreach and advertising this project, And can you tell us a little bit more if any of the companies that did present bids, if you know of their minority business kind of status? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Buenaventura. So in regards to the contractors, we had 11 bids. I don't recall exactly in terms of how many of those were disadvantaged business, minority. I can tell you that during the advertisement period, in addition to our normal channels in regards to advertising the project, we also do have a company that we send the contract documents to that focuses on minority disadvantaged businesses. With that being said, we are still evaluating and looking at ways that we can do even more outreach. And so that's still something that we are continuing to work on, but we did reach out to these bidders, exchanges, building exchange companies to look for all contractors, including minority and disadvantaged businesses. And so that's what we've done, and we're looking at ways to increase that even further.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for the progress, and I hope you keep moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Chu.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Buenaventura and Mr. Chu. On that, is there any other questions from my colleagues regarding this item?
Madam Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilmember DiGiovanni.
I just want to say thank you for Mr. Chu for when it came in 24% below. That also is a win for the city as well. So thank you for your due diligence, your hard work, and you always keep looking for equity, and I appreciate that. That's very appreciative. And it came in below, that's a lot. So that turned out really well. And so thank you very much, and to everyone in your department. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember DiGiovanni. I don't see any other unmute buttons or raised hands on this item for my colleagues. Seeing none, I'm asking for or entertain a motion for this item number 13, appropriating funds and award of construction of contract for Muscle Rock 2019, the Gabion Wall and Stormwater Maintenance Project.
So move.
Okay, I have a first, a second by Vice Mayor. May we have roll call, please?
Mr. Buenaventura.
Aye.
Dr. Rod.
Aye.
Ms. DiGiovanni.
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Ben Sylvester, aye.
Ms. Manalo.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Director Chu. Thank you for all your staff working on this and your continued work in reaching out to ensure that there's opportunities for our minority-owned businesses. Now, moving on to our appointments on boards and commissions, since we had moved our public comment at the forefront of our meeting yesterday. And so are there any appointments or board or commission membership appointments at this time? Seeing none, moving on to council committee reports.
I have one, Mayor. So this is related to Peninsula Clean Energy. I'm part of the committee on their review of diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion, and the request for proposal. Basically, the citizen committee, they came up with the equity statement, and their equity statement said this: in light of the community's focus on anti-racism, Black Lives Matter movement, following the death of George Floyd in May of 2020 and other continuing instances of systemic racism and institutional violence against Black people. The Peninsula Clean Energy CAC Equity Working Group has worked over the past few months on a statement that would embody the commitment of the organization to ensure equity and inclusion in their work. The working group recognizes that there are many forms of discrimination that impact people from different backgrounds, but the growing awareness of significant violence and discrimination against people of or Black, Indigenous, people of color is our current focus. And we are committed to developing a framework that will eventually address discrimination in all its forms. So with the Citizen Advisory Committee, their statement was that to have PEC commit to making anti-racism top of mind during decision-making, following best practices, pursue equity in energy generation and programs, develop a means of tracking revenue and formulating a mechanism, qualitative and quantitative, that ensures accountability. And they did, and so right now we're going through, trying to look for a consultant that will help us do an assessment of PCE that gives an analysis and a critique and feedback on identifying norms and processes that may contribute to implicit bias in terms of contract, employment, HR practices, and internal organization culture, identifies issues of environmental social justice related to PCE's operations, emphasizing equitable access to clean and lower priced energy in organizations' customer offerings, programs, and benefits, and identifying how PCE can improve performance and require regulatory reporting related to the DEI. Right now we're in the midst of trying to find a consultant, and with it, we're going to be working through the summer to conduct this PCE, diversity, equity, accessibility, inclusion, evaluation, and have a consultant in by June 7th, and hopefully have the project started by August 2021. So I think this is pretty huge. Knowing the current, engaging the current racial climate, and we heard it yesterday, and the work that we do on council is still important. And I just want to acknowledge that the work that we're doing is every day, and we're in these seats to represent what the people are saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, for that update and your work in the Peninsula Clean Energy in regards to diversity and inclusion, and for your update. Council Member Benaventura.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to give the community a heads up. Back when you first became the mayor, you started the Social Justice Committee. And I wanted the public to know that we have already been in the process of working on a restorative justice program under your direction. And that started a couple of months ago, actually. And so staff is going to be presenting to the Social Justice Committee in 2 days, actually. On Thursday, it was already scheduled for Thursday. And so I'm looking forward to going to that meeting and reporting out on our discussions. And I think we're making progress, and hopefully we'll have more to say later on. But thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Council Member Benaventura, and for that update. And the Social Justice Committee will be convening on this coming 29th, right? And we'll be letting our council know what has transpired from staff's research. Thank you very much. At any other council committees? Seeing none, no raised hands or unmute at this time. Moving on to City Council reports. In seeing none right now, I just wanted to update everyone that I joined the Kaiser Permanente public policy briefing on health equity last month, and every other week attend the COVID-19 SMC elected officials meeting, which I know that last year, Councilmember Mayor, when you were mayor, you attended those to get updates from the county. Also wanted to share that I continually sit on the Vaccine Communications Equity Working Group in regards to vaccine rollout and reaching those underserved populations and making sure that there's access to vaccines in our community. I want to say thank you to Supervisor David Canepa, who's been instrumental and very helpful in supplying vaccines to our local site in Daly City, which has been very consistent at the Pacelli Gym. And then also just want to let the public know that we are listening and we hear you clearly from the public comment from last evening, and we will be continuing to work with you, and also you know, listen, and we'll be providing further information as we have stated today and also from last night. Thank you very much. If there's no other city council, I will now ask staff if there is any reports at this time. Seeing no reports, I don't see an unmute from City Manager Maltby. Or is she frozen?
I think she actually might be frozen, Mayor.
Oh, okay. I totally know. That's what happened to me earlier.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Also, I was asking if there was any staff reports.
Shauna, your audio is not working.
No. Oh, okay. Verbally understood. No reports. Thank you very much. We are at our adjournment in memory, and I will yield it to Council Member Sylvester.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a preliminary bio, but I think that was sent up to the council. And if you have it, Madam Mayor, would you kindly do the honors?
Oh, I don't have the bio. I can look it up. One moment.
Okay.
I can. Was it forwarded it to all of us? Okay.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I think it was it Cerveza? I mean,
I'll look it. I'll look it up right now.
It was Bianca Caserza.
Do you have it, Councilmember Buenaventura?
I do.
Since the mayor deferred to me, I like to defer to you, sir, or not unless you want to give it to the mayor.
Mayor, do you have it already?
I have it already, but
No, go ahead, Mayor.
Please do.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. So we'd like to adjourn in memory for Bianca Rado Caserza, Library Board of Trustee. She died on Friday morning, April 9th at home in the care of her daughters. She was born in Stella San Martino, Italy, province of Savona to Bartolomeo and Giuseppina Cordara Rado. Immigrated to the United States in 1928 when she was 25 months old. A devoted wife of the late Louis M. Carcesa, whom she married on August 18, 1956. Beloved mother of Rosemary, Catherine, and Elizabeth Carcesa. Cherished sister of the late Dr. Peter A. Ratto. First cousin to Alice Filios, John Ganella, Graziella Cipriani, Vittorio Ferro, Antonio Cerruti, Maria Bianca Cerruti, Bianca Rado, and Berdina Ferro. Leaves many relatives in the Italian provinces of Lombardy and Liguria regions. Aunt of Andrea, Richard, deceased, Gloria, Daniel, Teresa, Stephen, and David. A lifelong parishioner of Holy Angels Church since 1928. A graduate of Jefferson Elementary School, Jefferson Union High School, and UC Berkeley, where she completed her undergrad work in modern languages in 3 years, graduating in 1947. In 1947 to 48, Bianca lived at the International House at UC Berkeley and obtained her teaching credential. She earned her Master's of Arts in Italian in 1950 and later her Library Science certificate from San Jose University. Proud retiree of the Jefferson Union High School District, where Bianca worked as an English teacher and high school librarian. From 1970 through 2000, Bianca served on the Daly City Library Board of Trustees many times as an officer. She was active in the Project Read, and her literary-related projects earned her Daly City Commissioner of Year honors in 1994. She served as a member of the Italian Catholic Federation Branch 19, past president of Holy Angels Women's Guild, Hillside Homeowners Improvement Association, Daly City Colma History Guild, Colma Historical Association, San Mateo County History Associates, and San Bruno Branch of AAUW. She also was a life member of the Cal Alumni Association and never missed rooting for her team in the annual big game between UC Berkeley, Stanford, and Stanford University. After Bianca enjoyed travels with Lou and later with her daughters, she retired in 1981. Bianca enjoyed attending classes at the Fromm Institute of University of San Francisco. Honoring Bianca's wishes, private services were held at Holy Angels Church with the committal at Holy Cross Cemetery, Colma. Also want to adjourn in memory of Jane Kim's father, Richard Kwang Ho Kim, the first Korean American to become an assistant district attorney in the United States, died on Saturday, April 3rd of Easter weekend. He was 76. He was born in Seoul on November 14, 1944. He was the eldest son of his father, Chung Sung Kim, and mother, Suk Hee Chung. Like many, he had to flee Seoul when it was overrun during the Korean War, but he was only 6 years old at that time. After immigrating to the United States in 1970, he earned a master's degree in business administration from Columbia Business School and went on to become a certified public accountant. Kim attended Fordham University Law School at night while working full-time as an accountant, and on March 5th, 1985, he was sworn in as an assistant district attorney in Queens, New York. Kim later went into private practice, doing both civil and criminal work as a solo practitioner for a burgeoning Korean immigrant community in New York City. He was one of the only few Korean-speaking attorneys at that time. His daughter Jane graduated from Stanford University and the University of California, Berkeley School of Law. She was then elected to San Francisco School Board in 2006 and San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 2010 as the first Korean American elected in San Francisco. Kim is survived by his wife, son, Philip, his sister, Mayung Ko, and nephews, Stan and Bert Ko. And at this time, may we have a moment of silence and we'll adjourn. Thank you very much.